All right, testing. Okay. Everybody good? Just want to make sure. All right. Thank you so much for the thumbs up. The time is 7:04. Let's call this meeting to order. If you do not mind, please standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. If we could have our five principles of a cruiser by Mr. Morbitzer, and thank you for moving the flags.
Our cruiser professional learning community has grown so much over the last several months, and I want to point out that most of the credit for that growth goes to our teachers. They've been fantastic to work with. These are the five principles of our cruiser PLC. I invite everybody to say them with me.
We
Here's what we do. We focus
focus
on
on
learning.
learning.
We
We
collaborate.
collaborate.
We
We
take
take
responsibility.
responsibility.
We ask what are the results.
and
We decide what
what
to do next. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Treasurer, if we could have roll call, please.
Mr. Kirshner. Here. Mrs. Dettelberger.
Here.
Mr. Bauer.
Here.
Ms. Gray.
Here.
And Ms. Walsh.
Here.
Thank you. All present and accounted for. Mr. Vice President, if you could go for our release statement and board norms, please.
We believe all cruisers are valuable. We will unconditionally serve, support, and inspire. Therefore, every cruiser will maximize their unique purpose, potential, and power to produce the results they want. As leaders of the district, we will always strive to support the mission and vision of the district, be prepared, informed, and ready for meetings, respect one another as elected representatives of the community, be open-minded, and recognize one another's strength, the value of diverse perspective, and mutual commitment to the mission and vision of the district. Allow members to complete their thoughts and statements before others comment. Allow members to be heard and listen to all perspectives with an open mind. Stay focused on the task at hand and respectfully redirect each other when needed. Maintain confidentiality and communicate per board policies. Ensure trust and transparency in all dealings. After a vote is cast, leave meetings united as one voice, no matter the outcome.
Thank you so much, Mr. Vice President. We could move to our agenda approval. If I could have a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
I have Ms. Gray first, Mr. Bauer second. I have a couple motions. Wanted to make a motion to add the safety committee meeting under board item F, board items, and make that one, please. If I could have a second.
Are we allowed to add?
Yes, I verified with legal counsel, and if I could make a statement, I know that Ms. Walsh, you sent me several emails, which was right on Monday when I was in the middle of the meeting, so I did not see them before the time frame to actually change the agenda as requested, so they were not ignored, just for the record. But there were several that came in on Monday, so. Again, I confirmed with legal counsel we could make the motion to add because of the way it was noticed. So it was reviewed prior to, so we're not violating Open Meetings Act. So again, my motion is to add the board, the Admin Safety Committee meeting update to F board items 1. Do I have a second?
So moved.
Mr. Treasurer, do you have all that? Did I go too fast?
Nope, I'm good.
Okay, just want to make sure we were following. All right. My second was Ms. Gray.
Could you clarify? Could you clarify? Were you saying S as in Sierra?
No, I said board items F. So F
Frank.
board items. Yes, Frank
Like,
or Foxtrot, if we want to use the phonetic spelling or alphabet. So it'll be Foxtrot 1. So it would shift everything down.
Thank you.
Yep. And Ms. Gray was the second on that, Mr. Kirshner. Okay. So if we could have roll call for that motion, please, Mr. Treasurer.
And Mr. Kirshner.
Aye.
Mrs. Dettelberger.
Aye.
Mr. Bauer.
Aye.
Ms. Gray.
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. And then I had one more item that I would like to make a motion to move on the superintendent's agenda item. Let me get to it. My apologies. So superintendent agenda G, item number, it's the department reports 9. If we could move that after, is it 9 or 10? No. Oh, 10. Is in board docs. I think he's moving things as we do it.
It's the new one.
Yeah.
So it'd be G10.
Yeah. So move that up, please, right after public participation, if we could. Or we could just add it E1 and just shift that down,
I'll second that.
So move G10 to E1.
please.
And that's a first Latoya, second Libby.
Correct. All right. Thank you. If we could have roll call, Mr. Treasurer.
Yes. Mr. Kirschner,
Aye.
Mrs. Dottelberger.
Aye.
Mr. Bauer.
Aye.
Ms. Gray.
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. Thank you, everyone. I don't know if anyone else has any other comments pertaining to the agenda for this evening before we move to approve the now changed agenda with those two items. Any other comments from colleagues? All right. If we could have roll call, Mr. Treasurer, please.
Mr. Kirschner.
Aye.
Mrs. Dottelberger.
Aye.
Mr. Bauer.
Aye.
Ms. Gray.
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh.
We have an agenda. So we are now on to public participation. Do we have any public participation forms? Okay. So I will move on to E1, which is now just the,
Can we confirm that none came in late? I know that you checked right before the meeting started.
is there anyone that has a public participation form that did not get turned in to any of our administrators this evening? We just want to make sure we give an opportunity.
Okay.
All right. Thank you guys so much, and thank you for being here. All right. So therefore, I will save you the time in reading our public participation statement and move to recognitions E1, which is now just the board update from the superintendent on those items, the board report. Thank you.
So there's a couple items in the department update from the superintendent. The one that I think the reason we're moving this early is to talk about school safety and the work that we're doing about that. So I'm going to ask Mr. Smathers, are you going to do it from here? Do you want to go to the mic? Okay, he's going to go to the podium and bring us up to speed on what's going on.
Good evening. I just want to take a minute to kind of talk about what's going on, and I'm sure you guys have some questions, and I'm going to leave some time for you to ask questions for me. But I want to share with you about what's going on at the high school. There seems to be lately a couple of large fights where it's more than just, it wasn't a one-on-one fight, it's a group of kids versus a group of kids, and there seem to be a couple of them. But I want to start off with that the start the school year, the high school staff and the high school administrative staff did an outstanding job setting the culture and of expectations. We went through the fall, had a great football season and pep rallies, great student attendance at the football games, and it just seemed like we were going and heading in a really good direction. I want you to know that the number of fights this semester is down significantly from this time last year and including the year before. So I just went back to the last 2 years. So in 2022, we had 124 students involved in a fight. And that's just first semester.
So first semester 2022, 124 students. First
Were 124 students were involved in a fight.
2022, correct?
22.
Thank
Is that at the high school?
Yes.
Yep.
I'm only talking about the high school.
you. Okay, thank you.
In 23, we had 126 students involved in a fight. I'm going to explain this in a minute. And this year, as of to date, which we only have a couple days left, it's 98 students involved in a fight. So I'm going to break that down a little bit. It's not always a one-on-one fight. Sometimes it's a fight between one person and another, and then their friend or friends jump in, and they're all involved in that singular fight. So we had 98 students involved in a fight, but we've only had 32 incidents of fights. And so I'm gonna.
That's for 2024, correct?
This is current right now. Yep,
Thank you.
first semester. So I also want to share with you kind of how that lays out a little bit. We had 32 incidents of fights. 98 students were involved in it. 87 of them, 87 of the 98 were put up for expulsion. Of the 87, 35 were expelled. 22 were expelled and held in parts of it held in abeyance, which is probation. 30 of them were not expelled, and 11 were not even recommended for expulsion. Of those 32 fight incidents and the 98 students involved in it, 33 uh, charges were filed with the police. Of the 33, 9 were of assault and 24 for disorderly conduct. So that's kind of how it plays out. The kids this year have been doing a really good job. This last incident yesterday that seems to kind of grab a nerve, the videos that were out are of juveniles without their consent. Um, it's also within our school, and it looks worse than what it was. All our current staff broke that fight up within seconds. It was in a cafeteria with 500 kids in it. Everybody was safe. Nobody got hurt. We were able to separate the kids, call the parents, and move on with the day. And we were able to settle the kids down in the cafeteria quickly and serve everybody lunch, and everybody got fed that day. It was, to be honest with you, the staff there did an excellent job. It was me personally who turned to Officer Bozo and said, we might need a couple more police officers to help. I didn't know where it was going at the beginning, but I'm awfully proud of how I did. And everybody that responded, we didn't actually need, but they came and helped us and supported us anyway. But the fight was taken care of quickly, swiftly, with the staff that was already there. Kids do fight, and we are trying our best to help kids make good choices and good decisions in everything that we do. All our support systems, our processes, the way we do things, the way we interact, our relationships with our kids is about helping them make good choices and decisions and staying focused in that school and on track to graduate. The overall thing we're mostly concerned is what are they going to do with their high school diploma? And we've had a lot of discussions about that. So I'm not just talking about the minute by minute that they're in their class while they're learning, growing, being successful and achieving. It's what are they going to do with it? What kind of people are they becoming? What kind of citizens will they be when they leave? What kind of production will they make in the workforce and follow their dream? That's what we're worried about. So along the way, we are continually addressing overwhelming amounts of kids with social emotional needs, food insecurities, housing insecurities, as well as anger and trauma coming from the home. On top of that, us with the programs that we have, because we have outside agencies helping us with that and more willing to do more to help us. But on top of that is the social media and the quick access that they have to each other, where bullying, harassment, name calling, calling people out, and people are getting brave on social media that create problems that come into the school. And we try our best once we know about it to deal with it, mediate it, but we're not able to get all of it, and a lot of times they don't tell us about it. So I just want to open that up and let you know kind of they're doing a good job over there, and I'm really proud of them. I'm proud of the staff. We did adjust some things that were happening over there to kind of tighten the ship down. We put a lot of structures in place in the lunchroom, which may you've heard about, but the kids come in, they sit down, they get comfortable, and then we start dismissing by table so we can, in an orderly fashion, make sure everybody gets lunch without ditching lines and making sure everybody gets fed. we're we're being pretty strict about in the hallways and having hall passes and having permission to be anywhere in the school and making sure they're in their assigned area, but mostly making sure they're in their classes learning. You can't learn if you're not in class. So having a sense of urgency and a priority to be in class the entire time and not miss a minute of instruction is important. Any questions?
Well, I'd like to say maybe a few things to add to what to Mr. Smathers said. Um, First, I want to say, as obvious as this is, I think it needs to be said. The last thing that any of us want is violence in our schools. We want our kids to feel safe. We want our staff to feel safe. We know that if it's an unsafe environment or doesn't feel like a safe environment, learning is not a priority. It goes way down the list. So, if there's any thought that we don't want safe schools, um, that couldn't be further from the truth. Additionally, there's some thought that we're trying to hide things or cover things up. I think we're probably one of the most transparent districts when there's something that goes on. Now, we can't give specific details about events, but we send things home to families and notify, which I feel like in sometimes it almost adds to this because people think that Groveport's the only place this is going on. I'm telling you, and again, there are fights that go on in probably every high school across America. That's not right. We don't want that, but this is not isolated. We're working really hard to reduce those, even with this blip that and more than a blip. It was a large increase for a short period of time. It still shows that the occurrences of fighting and violence is reducing. We're making progress. We know that kids come to principals and guidance counselors and teachers because they want to mediate, they want to talk, they want to try to avoid things. Uh, the other thing is, I think sometimes people misunderstand when we say that we have zero tolerance for violence in school. And what that means, can we guarantee that there's not going to be fights in school? I think everybody knows the answer to that. The high school is almost a quarter of a million square feet. We have 2,000 kids and 100 and some teachers. If something, if a fight is going to happen, we can't be everywhere all the time and intervene everything. Now, I think we've made a lot of progress in having kids make better choices, to calm down, to not do things, to tell people to get help. But there's no way we can guarantee that there's not going to ever be a fight or a bad incident. But when we say with zero tolerance, we take a very firm stance that we do not want violence in our schools. And Mr. Smathers gave you some of the statistics. um, and some were suspensions, some were with expulsion recommendations, and some were with legal consequences. That's when it gets down to the details of what happened to the situation. Um, how did it happen? How long was it going on? Was it planned? Or did other people jump in? Did they stop when adults got on the scene? Was it one-sided? So there's all sorts of things that take into consideration for a level of it's not a fight is a fight is a fight. If it's a situation where there's a scuffle and they immediately stop and break it up and the first time offenders, that's different than people running and jumping in and refusing to stop when adults are on the scene. And that's why we have different levels of response to that. The other thing, I tell you, we take firm stances against this. We also we're not just trying to throw kids out of school. We want to make sure that better choices are being made. Sometimes in cases, there are things held in abeyance to get students to get assistance with anger management or counseling or different things like that to give them another chance, that if it doesn't continue that they get a reduction of days. But when we talked about something being held in abeyance, that probation that Mr. Smathers mentioned, if you violate the abeyance, then the expulsion goes back into effect. So it's we're trying to balance. We want the schools to be safe. We want everybody to be there to be able to focus on learning and have support. We take severe consequences when bad decisions are made, but we're also not trying to throw kids out and say that you don't have any chance or any shot here as well. So it's a fine line to do that. One other thing, there was some of the things where there's no expulsion recommended. There are different sets of rules for students with IEPs as well that sometimes comes into play. There has to be a manifestation hearing. So it's not as simple that a fight equals this. There are different degrees of different things. There are different circumstances. But again, I want to go back and say it's of no benefit for any of us anywhere in the district, whether it's a kid, employee, administrator, whatever, to have violence in our schools. We don't want that, and we are doing our best to try to reduce and hopefully at some point eliminate those. But it's not lip service. I would argue that we probably have one of the most developed safety and security plans of any district in Central Ohio, and what we try to do to keep our kids and staff safe. So this was a little bit of a ramble and a rant, but I just wanted to share some of those things to paint a little bit more of the picture. Thank you.
Thank you. Well said. Any questions?
I have a comment. One
Sure.
thing that came out at our OSBA training, I attended a class regarding cell phone policies, and when enacted at the different school districts, they showed very dramatic decreases in violence whether they did a bell to bell or whether they completely took the phones away. It had a dramatic effect because as they were talking about, they were saying the social media, the things going on in the classroom, etc., were leading evidently to the violence. So I think a phone policy is I know it's something we're working on, but I think that could have a dramatic impact. Also, I think we should start with the basics, and we're doing a poor job of our dress code policy. There's like no enforcement. It doesn't look like a dress code policy when you go to the school, etc. So I think that's something we need to focus on, and also at the elementary level, I hear of kids in the elementary level cussing at teachers, flipping teachers off, and being disrespectful. And I think we need to, at the classroom level, really start to teach that respect, because as we said, there's some students that just aren't responding to adults, and I think the earlier we address that, the better.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I guess I would have a question for Mr. Kirshner. Where would you get the information on the uniform piece or the out of compliance?
Well, when I visited the school, and when you see the videos, you see a whole lot of real short tops. You saw a lot of hats and hoodies up. And when I visited the classroom, I'll give you an example. I do scholarships for Boys State, and we visited a classroom. And when I went in, half the class, and this was during standardized testing, and there was a substitute in the room. So let me put it that way. But the hoodies were up. About half the class was asleep. A gentleman in the back of the room, big kid, kind of did the cowboy thing, turned around, put his back to me, and started talking to a couple of girls in the back. And I said, "Hey, I'm speaking up here. I expect your attention." And the girls started getting nervous and pointing. And the young man got up and he started coming at me, and I was a little nervous. And then he actually grabbed a chair and sat at my feet and looked up at me. And it occurred to me that these kids were very shocked and didn't exactly know how to react when someone took a command present and said, "Hey, give me your attention." And even with that, there were still kids that really took a lot of prompting just to get their heads up. And so the hoodies are there. I see the hoodies all over, and not just hoodies, but toboggans. And I think kids should have, and I know we have a locker shortage of probably whatever it is, 300 or 400 or 600, whatever. But I really would like to see the kids have a place to put their winter wear, so they don't have to have hoods on. But also, I don't think they should have caps on that they can pull over their face and that kind of thing. So my observations are that, and then calls from parents I know that actually have had their grandchildren telling me that this type of communication is going on in their classrooms.
If I can go back to one of the things you said earlier, the OSBA about the cell phone policy.
Mhm.
Do you have that? Could you?
Yeah,
send-
and I figured.
I would love to see. I would
Yeah,
love to.
I've got a lot of notes on that, and also uh, policy committee meetings. So I figured at another date, I put it out there, but it was kind of late, that we would hopefully do a kind of OSBA overview and share all that. But
That's very
I can get
significant
you the
data.
notes. Yeah, happy to do that.
Any additional questions or comments? I just want to say thank you to our law enforcement in the back who are there at the school, and our administrators and our teachers for their hard work, for working through. I just want to make sure we publicly recognize them for what they've been doing in the buildings. I do have a son at the high school, so I have more insight of kind of what's been happening, and I do appreciate the hard work and how they're really trying to make sure where there's things that may be out of the control that may be coming in from the neighborhoods into the school, their hard work. So I wanted to publicly say that.
Thank you. And I'd like
You're
to
very welcome.
recognize Matt. He's one of our safety and security.
Yes, I
They
missed
do an
that.
awesome job
Thank
too.
you, sir. Yes, and I'm in security. When I said law
Yeah.
enforcement, that does include security. I was not missing security, just for the record.
Good. Thank you.
I had a
Oh,
question.
sorry, Libby. Okay.
So with the issues that we're having, I guess I just would like to understand what law enforcement is suggesting for us to do. If there's something in addition to what we're currently doing and their current policy is there something that we need to be reaching out to our community or families that we're just not doing? I mean, you guys see it every day. Is there something out there that we should be looking into?
Well, to be honest with you, I talk with them all the time. We have monthly meetings with our first responders, and we do come up with we tackle issues and come up with solutions. And one of them in this particular area, I think we're doing a really good job of collaborating with each other, but really as a parent and community outreach.
Yeah, and that's what I was wondering. What parent and community outreach should we be doing that we're not doing?
Right.
That because I feel like a lot of this is coming from the neighborhoods, coming into the school beforehand. So what is it that we're missing? What is it that we can stop before it walks through our doors?
Well, we keep having a lot of these parent meetings, and to be honest with you, it's a pleasure to meet people. It's just unfortunate the way we're meeting, but we end up having great conversations, and they see it's a partnership. But oftentimes they ask for help in what to do and in certain directions. And not saying that we know it, but we can get people that do know it, and we can get together and start talking about that. Maybe have some like parent and community assemblies and fairs or something like that. That's what we're talking about.
And Ms. Gray, we could definitely bring that to the parent advisory committee that we have too. I know that came up during our conversation as well. And then Columbus has like their family engagement coordinators, and figuring out what that looks like, if that's helping, maybe reach out to another district that may have it. And then there's some other programs too. I know with some of the things that I've seen, I've just been trying to reach out, and I think I sent you the little bit that I received. I reached out to Miss Moody with United Way and shared with you some of the stuff that I was kind of asking her about. So I think that's maybe the one of the main things we could probably work on for parent advisory when we take it back to the committee too. In addition to what administration is doing, maybe.
Our love to have share ideas. I'm sorry. I'll use the word command presence because I don't have a better term for it. But I'm wondering if there's a way, whether it's some security people, whether it's certain aides that we hire, if there's not a way for these classrooms to be visited more often by people, because we have teachers that the students will take advantage of and substitutes that the teachers will take advantage of and that aren't managing the classroom probably to their fullest. So I'm wondering if there's a way to get a higher level of engagement there, and also how we're measuring how we're doing with the teachers knowing their kids and the teachers communicating down to the families. I think those are two areas I know nothing honestly about the communication between teachers and parents and how consistent that is or good that is. But I do know, I believe we would benefit from more consistent visits to the classroom by people that can address behavioral issues where some teachers may not be doing as good a job as they should be.
Real quick, I have a question. You had mentioned that some of the kids are offered counseling and anger management classes. Are we tracking how many kids are going through those opportunities, and then are we tracking any reoccurrences after they've taken those?
Ms. Scott, do you want to come up? And
Well, yeah, come on up if you want to. But I'll say that we are keeping the data on that. The reoccurrences, I'm not sure about, and maybe Ms. Scott can talk to you about that. I wrote that down. I think that's a good point. But we are keeping track of the people that we're meeting with and the amount of it.
Absolutely. Part of the process and working with the parents and building that relationship is that we do have the conversation to offer counseling and to recommend anger management supports, mediations, those sorts of things. And that is something that I have personally recommended and had that be, a recommended condition for abeyance or as a part of the expulsion, because I consistently tell our kids and our families, our job is to help build resilient children that are able to develop strong problem solving skills. And it is very hard at their age, without their brains being fully developed, to be able to do that. And that's why, as part of the process and the relationship building, we're asking them, please come and talk to us. The snitching culture is alive and well in teenagers. And so we are combating that with our conversations and trying to show that we are trusted adults. We can have the confidential conversations and allow the adults to take on some of that weight and help them navigate through the process. And so it's really important to us that, along with the corrective action, that we are doing things to build the foundation of resiliency for the students that really need that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So
Kathy?
my questions, I've had a lot of parents call me, and one thing was, how many security guards do we have in the building, in the high school?
At the high school,
Yes.
we have 5. We share one with the Cruiser Excel, and there is an additional one we don't count for the high school. Well, sometimes we bring them, but there's one at the clinic.
One at the clinic?
Yeah.
Is
The
that our
primary
employee,
health
or
one
is that
pays for that.
primary? Is that our security person, or is that primary health person?
It's ours, and primary health reimburses us.
Okay. So, and then we said that no one was hurt, but I'm hearing from a lot of parents that their students are very hurt. They're afraid to go to school because of bullying and harassment. And I heard that we are helping the students who are getting in the fights, and that's great. What are we doing for these students who are afraid to go to school, who are being bullied? Not in fights, but the other piece of the puzzle, so to say.
Well, it's the same type of services for those students too, and we take an active approach to try to find those kids. Our teachers are paying attention. We are asking students questions. Sometimes they don't want to let us know, but we know something's going on. So we can send them. They can have private conversations with one of our social workers. We have Concord. We have our school counselors, and we're going to help them.
How many counselors do we have at the high school?
5. 5 school counselors, 2 social workers, and 1 person from Concord.
Okay, great. Oh, and you said there were some structures now in the, could you explain that a little bit? Because I hadn't heard about that and how that's helping.
So in the lunchroom, the kids are assigned to the cafeteria for lunch. That's their assigned area. They need to be there within the time of the bell rings. When they arrive to the cafeteria, they sit down and they get to choose where they sit. There's not assigned seating. They sit with their friends. However, they can only sit 8 to a table. We're not allowing kids to gather around the table larger than what the table can hold for safety reasons. We're trying to make sure everybody's comfortable and safe. So what we've also done is they come in, find the table and friends that they want to sit with, they sit with them, and everybody sits down and settles in. Then we start dismissing tables, and what we have done is color coded the tables. So we'll say all purple tables, you're dismissed, and we rotate when we dismiss. But we're also expecting everybody to take care of the area. So we're always looking under the table, under the chairs, and on top of the tables for trash that needs thrown away. We also push around the trash cans, help kids, remind kids to throw away the trash, and keep the aisles clear of clutter and trash. And in an orderly way, they go get their lunch, come back, sit back down, and stay seated. There's no roaming around the cafeteria. There's no sitting off on the walls. There's no gathering in the corner. They have to be at a table, spending time with each other, relaxing, and getting ready to finish out the rest of the day strong.
Mr. Smathers talked specifically about lunch, but there are procedures all day where kids can go after every class change. We do hall sweeps, we check restrooms. Kids have to have passes if they're going to be in the hallway. Uh, People have assigned areas to do. When it's in the lunch period, all the adults have been given assignments and tasks and what to do and what their process is and where to go. So just from a structural standpoint, we're making sure that we're getting coverage all over. We're doing practice over and over to try to get the hallways clear. Kids need to be in their class or in the lunchroom. Get a controlled environment in the lunchroom. It's just not a free for all. So those are just a few examples of some of the structural things that are going on.
And there is a structured movement of restroom visits. We have the custodians touching base in the restrooms to make sure they're clean and stocked throughout the day. So there's more adults. And we also have a rule that if you're an adult and you're walking, you're not passing the bathroom without stepping in. So there's constant supervision of adults within the restrooms.
With the complaints we've had and even a recent one where a kid was bullied and somebody tried to take his phone, is it a possibility? Is this something we're looking at as far as maybe doing restroom monitoring, making sure only two kids are going in at a time, go in the right restrooms, have a hall pass, that kind of thing? Is that something you could see as reality?
So we have a system, it's called Smart Pass, it's electronic hall pass. And to be honest with you, we're only allowing one student at a time out of a classroom, and it needs to be for an emergency purpose. We can see if a kid's asked to go to the bathroom every period on the Smart Pass, but we are trying our best to monitor the restrooms at all times. During the lunches, we have 2 staff members at the lunch restrooms during lunch the entire time. We only allow 5 boys at a time and 5 girls at a time, and one has to come out before another one can come in, and we are constantly inside there checking.
So if we have an incident where you've got a couple kids bullying another kid, that would probably be lunchtime as far as you would think.
No, but that is the restrooms in the lunchroom is a high incident area, but because it could happen anywhere.
I'm not quite tracking with the one kid at a time. Obviously, we obviously are having more than 2 kids in a restroom at a time, right?
Well, it's one kid out of a class. There's
okay.
On average 36 classes a period.
Okay.
There are also restrooms at midpoints and in the ELA parts of every wing. So if there's a student that has a pass to be out, they should be going to the restroom closest to where their class is
Right.
on the same floor or where their
Right.
class is. So it shouldn't, if one kid's out for multiple classrooms, one student shouldn't be walking from this wing over here to go meet a buddy, in a different floor in a different wing over there. Are we perfect on that? Of course not. But that's procedural things we're trying to get to limit that. So basically, if a student has a restroom pass and they're in room whatever, if they're in a different wing or on a different floor, even with a pass, they're out of assigned area because they're not where they're supposed to be. A pass isn't a free for all to go wherever you want to go.
Right.
So what's the mechanism for enforcing that? How do you know? If I was a teacher, how do I know if a kid's outside their zone, let's say, in the wrong restroom area?
Well, we have adults walk in the halls and we check the passes or check the system. And if we have a kid on the second floor in Rary from Upper Pride
Okay.
going to the restroom, we got a problem.
The,
And so,
the classroom teacher wouldn't necessarily know until somebody else
right.
found the student out of area.
And then there's a reporting system for that.
Thank you.
And I will say this, during student movement and class changes, we do have staff stationed at the restroom during class changes
What
at
about
every restroom.
the number of days, a maximum number of days of expulsion? What is that?
Well, it depends on the situation, and if it's extreme, like weapons, it could be a full calendar year, up to 80 days.
Mhm.
Um, Typically, students don't get expelled for the whole year.
Okay. And then how many days is suspension?
10.
10
The max is 10.
max? Okay. And
So
then,
a suspension, by definition, is anything 1 to 10 days. Anything longer than 10 days is an expulsion.
okay. And is there an ability to have requirements to complete anger management or some type of counseling for them to be able to return back to school?
Absolutely, and we do it all the time. And Mrs. Scott just talked about that. We're trying to work with the families. We're trying to help them learn from their mistake, correct the action, make better choices and decisions. And some of it is getting some of those help. And so we come up with safety plans, return to school plan, and some of those plans involve anger management or conflict resolution, uh, decision makings, or just go meet with somebody.
And the maximum on the expulsion, that's a state guideline, is that
Right.
correct? Okay. Thank you.
And I'm aware that there's a Senate bill in the House, but they're trying to extend that, and it's gone pretty far, so hopefully that will continue. Also, I want to know about athletes. So if we have our extracurriculars, if these students are expelled or if they're involved in, like, we've seen a lot of 3-on-1 fights, right? I saw a kid with a hoodie and the toboggan pulled over his face so they wouldn't see who it is. Those kind of situations. If we find out they're athletes, what happens then? Or in extracurriculars, and they're expelled, do they get kicked off the team? Are they suspended from that extracurricular for a year? How do we deal with that?
Well, if anyone is suspended or expelled, they're not participating in extracurricular activities. So they're not on the team. They're not participating in games. I will say it depends on certain situations, but I think what you're getting at, there's no favoritism. It, they're students, and we're focused on them being students and making good choices. The extracurriculars are extra. So if they're on the football team, basketball team, volleyball team, and they want to fight and be violent in our school, that's a part of the consequence.
One thing I want to clarify, because it sounded, I know what you were saying. You said if students are suspended or expelled, they're not on the teams. If a student is expelled, they're no longer a student in the school and can't participate. Excuse me. If a student is suspended, they obviously can't participate when they're suspended, but that doesn't automatically mean they're off the team.
Right.
But there's an athletic code of conduct as well, so that could lead to loss of playing time or could lead to removal of a team. And this isn't just talking about fighting. This could talk about any violations
Yeah.
that cause suspensions. When a suspension and an expulsion are a legal action that's taking a student's right away to come to school. And there's a due process and there's a hearing for each of those. And when I said an expulsion by definition is anything longer than 10, I should share that you can suspend up to 10 days. If it's going to be anything more than that, an expulsion recommendation, that is a second hearing with the hearing officer. So it's another part of the due process. And then a determination is made if there's going to be an expulsion for any additional days up to the more severe consequences.
Right.
And what is that timeline for the hearings?
Uh, for the expulsion hearings, we like to have those before the suspensions are up, and the due process hearing is immediate. So if we're talking to a kid, the due process is that we're going to hear their side of the story, gather the facts, get the evidence, look at video, hear, and actually get their statements and other statements, and then we make a determination of suspension or not.
Okay, thank you.
Well, you haven't talked about in-school suspension. Could you speak to that?
What we have it.
How,
Um,
how does it work?
So it's another tier level of suspension or a level of corrective action. So we go from talking to the kid, conferencing with the kid or their parents, to lunch detention, to in school half days, in school all day, multiple in school retention, to out of school.
So if you have a multiple in-school suspension at the high school, where do you go?
Multiple in school.
A multiple day in-school suspension. Where do
Well,
you go?
you know, there is progressive discipline, but it depends on the situation. It really does. There's so many variables that go into this, and they could get it in school for out of assigned area, in school for disrespect or insubordination, and if in school is going to work, and it will correct the action, and the kid will get back to what they need to, making good decisions, then it worked. We're not looking to add and progress if we don't need to.
Mr. Kirshner, were you asking physically where do they go?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a particular
Like the in-school room.
Oh, yeah, we have a classroom.
you have one classroom set
Right.
aside for in-school suspensions? Okay.
And we have a in-school monitor.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, I misunderstood. Anything else?
Thank you.
Go ahead. Is that at the middle schools too, that they do the in-school and have
Yes.
a classroom for it and all that? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm gonna borrow this.
Since this item is up, the other couple things that's later in the packet, the human capital items, and I'm just going to touch base on these. I know you can read them. Wrap back, and I think Mark has talked about this before. That's when we get, if someone would have some type of an offense, or we get feedback on licensed, and they added non-licensed employees this year. That enrollment was extended until the end of January. I think it was originally the end of December. And then this is just the beginning of being developed. But here's our current confirmed recruiting locations that we have going on. And then teaching and learning. And again, I don't want to read this to you, but it's basically give an overview of some of the things we're doing with our CKLA work. That's our new curriculum for language arts, and show some of the things that we're doing to implement that and work with the different buildings and PD scheduled. Trying to be quick. Any questions for me? Okay, if not, then that ends item G10, which would put us back to a resolution.
Yep. So, Dr. Miranda, we have her here tonight, and thank you for your patience. You know, we understand school business, so it was very important that we talked about those things. But we wanted to recognize Dr. Antoinette Miranda for her service. She is our Region 6 Ohio Department of Education and Workforce member who has I guess exceeded her term limit, and so she has been a great partner with Groveport Madison Schools for quite some time. Also, she serves as our point of contact for student teaching at OSU. So we wanted to take this time and personally just thank you for your support, showing up, coming, talking to the board, speaking with some board members, speaking to families and students, coming to some of our programs. So we do have a resolution, and there's some other things that we're going to get to you. So that is why we had you here tonight. So I'll turn it over to Superintendent Grove.
Thank you, President Dadelberger. The superintendent recommends recognizing Dr. Antoinette Miranda for her outstanding service as a State of Ohio Board of Education member and dedication to the students of Groveport, Madison with the following resolution. Whereas Dr. Antoinette Miranda is a professor and director of the School of Psychology program at The Ohio State University and holds the Casto Professorship in Interprofessional Education. And whereas Dr. Antoinette Miranda has spent well over 35 years in education, both K 12 and post secondary, she has worked as a school psychologist in urban, suburban, and rural districts in New York City, Ohio, and Kentucky. And whereas during her tenure at Ohio State University, Dr. Antoinette Miranda has consistently worked with school districts in a variety of capacities, including providing professional development and college courses on site. She has had a lifelong passion for making schools work for school age children, especially those most vulnerable. And whereas Dr. Antoinette Miranda was elected to the State Board of Education in November 2016 and was reelected in November of 2020, now therefore be it resolved that the Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education recognizes and commends Dr. Antoinette Miranda for her outstanding service as the State of Ohio Board of Education member and dedication to the students of Groveport Madison Schools. Yep.
We have the longer resolution, and we'll have it there. We just wanted to make sure we thank you for Or would like to come through, like to come through with a wonderful. Yeah. This is enjoyable.
Okay. I'm actually really excited about this next presentation. Um, this is something that is wonderful for our teachers and our kids, and honestly our families as well. Um, and it's I think a somewhat cutting edge way to be able to provide different opportunities for our kids. And I'm not doing any explanation or the great explanation of discussing what it is. But it's called Magic AI. And Carol, do you want to introduce it a little bit and introduce our curriculum coordinators?
Absolutely. Shannon Beaker and Liza Humphreys are our curriculum coordinators, and they brought to my attention and introduced me to Magic School AI. And the first time that I saw it, I was just absolutely blown away. And I think the best way is to show you some of the things that it does. And immediately when I saw it, I'm like, we've got to get this for our teachers and what it can do for them, what it can do in their planning, and what it can do for our kids. Just a simple thing. They can take any document, drop it in, and it immediately can translate it to any language that we ask it to. And I know there's a lot of reservations about AI in education. If we're not embracing it, we're behind. And so the nice thing about Magic School AI is it's a closed AI platform, if you will. There is a student side of it. We're focused right now on the teacher side of it. In the document that's in the board docs, there's a couple links that I encourage you to go to, kind of look at the FAQs, look at the different things that it has. But there's so many tools, and I'm actually going to have Shannon and Liza show you some of the things in real time that we have trained our teachers to use, that they're using daily, and then we are going to constantly give them updates with the new tools that Magic AI that it offers. So which one's up? Who's first? Liza's first.
Hi, good evening. So, we were really excited to introduce these tools to our teachers. It's something that Shannon and I have been going to for a couple of years because it's just so useful and such a time saver. So, we've been like rolling out specific tools to the teachers during our professional development days that we've been having. And we also have been giving time to our teachers during CT time. So, we've been doing small groups. Like most recently, I went over to Middle School Central and worked with the ELA team there. And I showed them there's a student feedback tool where you can actually use the Ohio State rubric from the state test, drop that in as an attachment, and then you just set your parameters. You can put the prompt in, drop your student work in there, the sample, and then it will give you feedback, both positives and negatives. And then if you put, you can keep drilling down, and then the actions, if you say grade with the rubric, then it will actually grade each section of the rubric like the state would grade that. So it's such a time saver. I received several emails back from the staff saying, like, they explained to the students how they would be grading their final essay, but it was just good to get some feedback like on the spot as they were doing it. So Shannon and I just want to kind of show you live just some of the tools that we've been highlighting this year. And if you look on the, what we have projected here, there's so many tools, and I'll just kind of scroll down. These are all the tools offered. I mean, you can see there's presentation generators, there's multiple choice quizzes, there's worksheets, there's report card comments, there's email, like you can respond, you can drop an email in, and then you can say who your audience is, what kind of things you want to say, and it will prompt. One I really want to show though, that is fairly new. Let me get back up here. It's called Lesson Hook. So we all know that, especially when we're talking about standards, sometimes it's very difficult to get students excited. Like you say, hey, we're going to do some state standards. They're not usually like really excited over that. So this is kind of like the way to like secretly get the standards going without them knowing what you're doing. So this is how easy this is. So you see there's two prompts on this menu. So we have a grade level. So I'm going to choose, since I just worked with middle school, I'm going to choose 7th grade. And then I'm going to put in, I could put in a topic, I could put in a standard, I could put in a text. I'm going to actually put in one of their standards. So I'm going to do RL point 7.1, which is, for those of you who don't have the standards memorized right off the top of your head, that is a text evidence. And that's the one that we see starting in our 3rd grade test. So by 7th grade, this is something our students are very familiar with. I don't have to put Ohio. It'll know. I've used this enough times, it kind of recognizes me. So what this does is, if I was going to be a teacher and start my standard on text evidence, and I thought, okay, how can I hook my kids and not just say, here's our I can statements. Here are some activities I can do. And you can see like some that they pulled up here are the mystery character clue hunt, which is a scavenger hunt, because when you're using clues, you're using text evidence. You're not saying that, but that's embedded in this activity. You can see there's one called Character Hot Seat, where you choose students to be characters and they have to take on some of these details. Again, there's your text evidence. Then we have like a character comparison chart. Well, because this is so advanced in what you're doing, I was like, okay, well, let's try this. We know that The Outsiders is a novel that 7th graders use. I mean, probably some of you remember reading The Outsiders. I remember reading The Outsiders. So if I like this mystery character clue hunt, I'm going to type right in this bottom section where it says, it's right next to the button actions. So what I'm doing is I'm prompting it to be more specific. So I'm going to say, create the mystery character clue hunt activity with the book The Outsiders. And notice I don't even have to say who's the author, anything about that book. And then I come over here to this little caret and click, and it's like, okay, here's your objective. Okay, here, yeah, I'll go back up. It thinks for quite some
Can
time.
we use this for life?
Well, that's what we've said. If it ever disappears because we use it so much, I mean, it's just good to get like some ideas that would take us, days to do. But here you can see, here's this mystery clue hunt for the outsiders. They've got materials, clue cards. I need envelopes to hide the clues. I need large chart paper, and here's your preparation. And they've singled out the characters. For Pony Boy, here's one of his direct quotes. For Johnny, here's one of his direct quotes. So you're secretly hooking the students on RL 7.1, the text evidence, and they don't even know. They think they're playing a game to do it. So now to extend from that, I'm going to back out and Shannon's going to show you the lesson plan generator and how you can build a lesson. So Liza stole a little bit of my thunder with that last one, but I'm still going to go ahead and go through this. One of the great things, and Carol kind of mentioned this earlier when she was introducing it, but all of the tools continue to evolve. And so there was originally a lesson plan tool. You can see that in the second row there. But one of the great things they've actually come out with recently is that you can customize any of the tools specifically to you. So Liza talked a little bit about how you prompted. Well, I have taken some of the work out of this. I'm going to pretend I'm a third grade math teacher for our example tonight. And what I've done is I went ahead and programmed into the tool certain prompts that I wanted to consider. So already programmed in here is an I can statement. I asked it to provide suggestions for how I can target my English learners. How can I do differentiated questioning for my gifted students, but also those that are struggling on IEPs or 504s or have other needs. So that's already programmed in here. All I have to do then is type in one of our standards. So this one, if we don't know that one, that's multiplying and dividing within 100 for our third grade students. And I don't need to include any additional criteria unless I want to. It's already tied to Ohio's learning standards. And we generate. Now, lesson planning, if you've never done this as a teacher, can take a considerable amount of time, and it's the most important thing that you do. And literally within seconds, we have an entire lesson planned out for you. Now, Magic School does caution its users with what they call the 80-20 rule. So 80% of what's there is something that you're going to want to use. The other 20%, you're using your professional judgment. So you want to look for bias. You want to look for things that might be incorrect. AI right now can't do math problems, specific kind, this particular kind in particular. So you have to use your professional judgment. But you can see here, we've got assessment, we've got key points. If you didn't use the hook tool, maybe how to open with your students. And it just goes through, you can see down here at the bottom, those the prompts that I put in for differentiated questioning, suggestions for English learners, and so on. So that's all there. And just like Liza showed you, you can continue to prompt that and it'll narrow it down if you want additional information on how do I implement one of these activities. We could say, sorry, I have to go back up to look because it's different every time. Did I miss it? I was looking for my hands on, there it is at the bottom. Okay. So I could just say, create word problems for the word, let's see. So just create word problems for a number line jump station. And rather than having to go out and hunt for those word problems myself, again, within seconds, we have all of those available for the teacher to use within their classroom and be able to implement right away. So that was all we wanted to show you, just just a teeny tiny portion of what we're giving to our teachers to help them make their jobs easier and to be more efficient in what they're doing.
Well, just a couple things. Number one, you said these are obviously tied to our standards. And so if you just look at those problems developed or the lesson plan, the time it would take a teacher to either cut and paste that from somewhere or write those things out and put the plan in place. And again, if 80% of it's great and 20% of it you scratch from that, no harm, or you might refine what terms you use to do it. but that also creates these activities and lesson plans and things to do that we know are aligned with the standard to the level that the standard should be taught. If it's a third grade math, it's going to be at a performance level that a third grader should be able to do, seventh grade ELA, whatever. And so we know that the work being identified and the plans being identified are to the appropriate levels and definitely addressing the standards. This would have been such a gift to a new teacher coming in to be able to do things like that. And I know you want to be done. And I don't know, I might turn this to Carol, but
Okay.
when we first saw this, when she showed this at cabinet, she was doing some different. It was like a creative tab or a fun thing. You had people doing raps about U.S. history, and I mean, there's all sorts of crazy stuff you can do. That's really kind of fun and exciting.
Yeah, we did a rap battle. I believe it was between George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. Um,
It's not called rap battle.
okay. Oh, we're on Magic. Okay, hang on. Was it a student tool?
No, no. There's also the song generator.
Maybe that's what it was. Song generator. All right. Well, this was we'll do a song about Mr. Smathers. Is that okay? Details in the song. He loves safety. He loves coffee. He is mad at the Buckeyes. And we will play that to Journey. So it doesn't play it to the music, but you'll get the idea. Now, the more information I give it, obviously it would play. Let's turn this up.
This was not a setup at all. They didn't know I was going to ask this. They're doing this on the fly right now.
Mr. Smathers' safety journey. Just a small town teacher living in his classroom. Safety on his mind, coffee in his view. Buckeyes make him frown, but he doesn't care. He's got passion burning, and he'll always be there. Don't stop believing in safety's golden light. Mr. Smathers keeps on teaching, holding coffee oh so tight. Don't stop believing, his passion burning bright. Safety is his mission, and he'll win this fight. Some will mock his coffee, some will laugh his way, but he stands for safety every single day. Ohio State can't shake him. He's got principles to share. A teacher with a mission showing students that he cares. Bridge. Safety rules. Coffee's cool. Cool? Mr. Smathers knows the truth. His lessons shine like proof. Don't stop believing in safety's golden light. Mr. Smathers keeps on teaching, holding coffee oh so tight. Don't stop believing, his passion burning bright. Safety is his mission, and he'll win this fight.
Okay. I will say she's more energetic now. I think that's an update. And so, and we tried a different thing. The one rap battle, you could put two different characters in, and it'll come up with which one was more influential to history. But again, if you try to enter something that because it is an educator platform, it won't allow you to do something inappropriate, and it'll give you a message of, this is probably not an appropriate topic. Please select another. So, I think when you think of AI, educators have been nervous about it. It is something we need to embrace. We still are trying to figure out the student side and how we want to go about that. But this is such an amazing tool for teachers and principals, administrators. I mean, you can create a newsletter, you can create an email, you put your information in and it generates it real quick.
And just to clarify, no, we did an ELA and a math, but content areas and grade levels that this.
Anything. So one of with the PD that we did in October, one of the examples we gave was create a physical education lesson using a hula hoop and something else, and it generated a lesson. So it's something that we're constantly updating our teachers with the new tools. We have a PD coming up on January 6th, and we're showing them the new tools that have come out since October. But it's amazing for our teachers. And when I went to Adam and said we need to get it, he knew we needed to get it. So we made fun of him too.
Just to kind of add on to that, some of the tools, there's one that is chatting with a historical character, or you could do a book character. So just trying to extend it into other areas. If you're a science teacher and you want them to chat with a scientist that's no longer living, they can go in and they can ask questions. And the tool has already set those parameters, and it knows about that character, and so it responds as if they are that person. Likewise with history, you could pick a historical figure. It does have some limitations. It's not up to date as of today. So, I think it may be like 5 years back. So if it's a newer person, you may not be able to use that, but certainly some of the older folks in history, we could do that with. Kind of a cool tool.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned a little bit about it, but I wasn't quite sure if I caught it right. So if say you've got third grade and you've got students that are a little bit above third grade in your class, and you got students that are behind.
Yeah.
Does it adjust it? Can you tell it to adjust it based off of that so that you're teaching the same subject, but you're teaching them at different levels?
It does. And so that was one of the things that I included in my prompt when I made my lesson. I kind of leaned over it. But the differentiated questioning, you could also ask for an extension activity for your students who are finishing the lesson quickly. And it would give you ideas for what they could do to extend their learning, whether that's still within the same grade level or it might connect up to the next grade level. And likewise, you could ask it to help you scaffold for students who are lower performing, and it'll give you some guidance as to how you might break that down for those particular students. Likewise, it might give you some additional strategies like using visual aids or other manipulatives that would help the student to understand the concept. Yeah.
And that would be included in that materials list, like if there's the scaffolding for those
Yes,
that meet.
yes, and if it doesn't, you can ask it specifically. That's how you can prompt it then.
Okay.
There were no materials included. Create the materials or list the materials needed for this particular activity.
And if you notice at the bottom of the screen, like even when Carol did the song, it has some prompting for you. So if you're not sure, it's like right here in this area.
Okay, I see it. Yep.
So you can see, even though she was doing a song, this one asked, what are some engaging activities to teach safety principles? It knows however you've drilled down, it keeps making it more finite. So it'll prompt you to think of things that maybe you might not have even thought
Please
of.
make sure you send me that though.
we will download that.
Yeah, you can create a free account. So if you're interested in getting on and playing around with it, those links again are on your slideshow. Yeah.
Do we think that this is going to help us recruit new teachers as well, just with having this software in our district?
I think it's something that we definitely talk about when we go out, because this is huge. The amount of time this saves teachers, and not just time, but as we played with it, and we have many years. I'm not going to talk about our age, but many years of education or being teachers, and the creative ideas. I'm like, oh my god, I wouldn't have thought that about that. Just the ideas that it gives the teachers. They may not use the lesson to the fullest, but it gives them a spark of what maybe the route they could go. The other piece that we talked about, gifted. We brought gifted back into all of our buildings. Sometimes that's challenging to figure out that lesson. How can I extend it for those students? Now you enter it, and it gives you a lesson, so that we're not just having gifted students do more work. No, that's not how we serve gifted students. We do a differentiated assignment, not just more. And so sometimes that's difficult. So that was part of our training that we did in October. Was we made certain, okay, enter a lesson. Now how could you change that lesson for your gifted students? So to give them those ideas.
And
It's pretty amazing.
the one thing that from reading some of our student applications, they're wanting the way that teaching is done, they want it differently. And they like it. Last year when I did talk to the students in the elementary level, they were like, I loved when it was during COVID, because we did activities. It was more one-on-one, or when they had we had the security breach and they couldn't use their Chromebooks.
Yeah.
They loved that one-on-one. And this, I feel like, will give that opportunity to be more creative with their classes.
And think about what you just said. So in one of the prompts, we could have created an assignment and said, create an assignment that does not involve technology.
Oh, that's a good.
And so the more you enter and the more you help drill it down, there's there's infinite possibilities.
I'm sorry, if you told the AI to create a plan that didn't involve technology, wouldn't it just shut off immediately?
Maybe you want to see? You want a worksheet or
No.
you want a lesson plan?
And it does save the results. Over on the left side where you see where it says output history, that's over in that toolbar. So anything that you've created, it automatically saves it and you can go find it again. So everything that you create stays in one spot.
Your account. Do we have it to where we also share, like, where if we create something and say that particular building wants to, say, this third grade teacher got this amazing plan and was like, oh, this will be great to just kind of share. Is there a way to kind of make it available on the platform for others within our
Yes, you can make it
domain to,
public so
okay.
that you can share it that way.
Is it public just within our district or is it public within the entire universe?
I think we watched the video where it went out.
I think you could do both.
Yeah, I was
You
gonna
could
say,
do
so it went out
within
to
our
every-
district, yes.
Mhm.
So I just put in, this is the same standard 3OA3, so it's a math standard. Create a lesson that does not use technology and requires the students to move around the classroom.
And while I was thinking, do we know that with the percentage of other districts in Franklin County, since that's our competition, that's using this tool? So if we're talking about like Mr. Bauer, VP
We know
Bauer's
Hamilton is.
question.
I don't know all the local districts who are using it. They brought it to us, and as soon as I saw it, I'm like, yeah, we're. A multiplication relay race, math movement stations. And then you could, what about a student? Maybe I have a student that is in a wheelchair. How could I differentiate that assignment? And so I will say I do not like presentations where it's been on the fly, but I think it was important for you to kind of see this on the fly because that's how easy it is to use.
No, it was great. I appreciate it personally. Thank you.
I also think Magic AI is a much better name than the original name of Skynet.
So
Sorry.
Carol, this seems
Bad
like
joke.
a program that you were talking about wanting everything to be cohesive across the district, and that's going to help with this.
Yeah, and I think one of the things too is it helps teachers really understand that grade level content. Sometimes teachers look at that standard, especially new teachers, they look at the standard, they think they know the level that they should be asking, but maybe they're just not quite there. Well, it automatically, based on the standard, it's going to give you some foundational skill sets also, but it's going to give that grade level content for that consistency that we need.
Yeah, and is this replacing any other programs? Because I know you thought, well, we have all these programs, we got to narrow that focus.
Not yet necessarily. We are actually, and it's funny that you say that, on January 6th at our PD, we are doing a resource audit of all of our teachers. What are the resources that we're using? Maybe there's something out there, I learned about this just a couple months ago. Is there something else out there that could really be beneficial and maybe could eliminate some other things? We don't want to eliminate it if it's being used and it's a good resource. So we want to make certain we get a good audit of what's being used out there.
Well, that sounds very good.
Ms. Walsh, I also wanted to just mention when we were trying to get all of the schools on board together, we talked about sharing it within the platform. But something that Liza and I are attempting to do is to create a drive of resources for the teachers so that if they do come up with a really fantastic idea, they can drop that directly into a folder and share that across the buildings as well. So as we try to get that alignment between the schools, this is obviously some really creative ideas that it can come up with. Let's share those out with all of the teachers.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
And then the hard question for Adam, what is the cost of this? Is this a software license per student or is it for the district?
It's for the district. They gave us a prorated, and I believe for the rest of this year, started in October, it was just over 19,000 for this year. So, and we signed a 2-year contract. Next year, it was, I want to say for the next year, because it would be the full year, I believe it was 28, maybe 29, right around there.
Okay.
So we wanted to try it out, but we also wanted to get it for 2 years before they jack that price up, because I think it could go up eventually. So we're locked into that price for next year based on our contract.
And you said you're going to set us up so we can play around with it a little
You
bit.
you
That'd be
probably
nice.
can
That'd be
with
awesome.
your
Go Cruiser account.
with your cruiser email. You probably can.
Oh, so anyone who is a Go Cruiser access can access. Oh, Mr. our
Oh,
IT
no?
director
Okay.
says that is
No,
not so.
sorry, you can't.
Okay,
You can't.
but
So-
but on the main site, separate from our account that we have for the school, if you just go to Magic School, anyone can set up a Magic School account, and you have the pro version for 30 days, so you can play around with all of the tools and kind of narrow things down. And then after the 30 days, it goes back to some limited tools, but it's still fantastic even with the free version.
I did have one question in regards to special education and how this works when we have gifted and then those that may be on the IEP and may need additional time. Are there prompts and things and what is that? Okay. I just thought I'd ask and see what there was any input from Dr.
Yeah, just like we talked about with the where we could prompt it to write some questions for gifted students. You may say, could you do leveled questions for struggling students that could get them to this point? You know, could you break it down by the foundational skills, and it'll send everything.
So there's like a student that's on a 504 IEP. You can kind of put in what those things to work with them on
Mhm.
in that prompt, and then it could kind of help that teacher that may be new in this instance kind of guide them through that lesson.
Yep.
That's awesome. So it's not just your general; it's everybody can.
Everybody.
Everyone can have it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Uh, can we go back? We did not. We had the resolution, and I did not want to interrupt the amazing presentation and our folks that came in, but we did not get a vote on the resolution. So if we could have a first and a second for the approval of the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Point of clarification, what are we voting on? Please?
We're going back to the resolution for Dr. Antoinette Miranda. We did not actually vote on it. We got excited. We took our pictures, and then we got all excited about Magic School AI. But I didn't want to interrupt the momentum of the presentation, but did not want to forfeit getting this action item out the way before we move forward.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Do we have a first
All
and second?
We do. So the first was Miss Gray. Is that correct?
Yes.
And Mr. Bauer was second, correct?
Yes.
All right. If we could have roll call, please.
Mrs. Walsh.
Aye.
Ms. Gray.
Aye.
Mr. Bauer.
Aye.
Mr. Dotterberger.
Aye.
Ms. Christmas.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. All right. Back to you. I think we are on. Right. So we are on. Oh, we added. It would be our safety meeting
correct.
would be first if there's an update from the safety meeting. So I know I see Miss Conwell. I don't know if that'd be Mr. Smathers, just to talk about what happened at the last safety meeting, or whoever will be doing that. Thank you.
Good evening again. We had a wonderful district safety committee meeting, and we spoke about threat assessments and what that looks like from an administrative standpoint, the investigations, the follow through with the threat assessments, how much time it takes, who all's involved, the threat assessment teams at each of the buildings, and the threat assessment team within the district, and also our threat assessment protocol system that we use. And if you want to come up. Jamie Scott is the one that presented the threat assessment at our district safety committee. She did an outstanding job. I wish more people could have heard it. We probably should have recorded it. It was outstanding. We had great discussions afterwards, and I just thought we might have to do it again and offer it again to see if more people come in. It was that worthwhile and important and excellent. So you want to speak to it?
Thank you.
Yep.
So one thing to know about me, I am a crime junkie. I love listening to podcasts. I have about an hour drive each way. So this presentation, I did a lot of research on some specific school violent incidents that have happened in the past, and listened to a lot of cases and things because it was important for me with this presentation. It was originally designed for administrators, And I wanted them to be able to see how important it is to not only pay attention to each step, and look at the body of evidence, but also to involve your team. And House Bill 123 in the state of Ohio is the one that prompted threat assessments and risk assessments for students. And it also showcased how schools should approach the threat assessment. In the past, a lot of threat assessments were conducted by the administrator and the people who were directly involved in a particular incident that led to the threat assessment. But with the new protocols that were developed with the Secret Service and different threat assessment agencies, it really prompts the teams to bring in other adults that would be considered trusted adults with that student, because we want to make sure that we get a full picture of that student and everything that has impacted their lives, and open it up to the team. And when we talked about the team members, I've had bus drivers on my threat assessment teams. I've had custodians and food service workers, because they tend to have great relationships with kids because they're not the ones in charge of them in the classroom, right? And responsible for grades and things. So it's really important. Plus, we have a community volunteers and coaches and things like that. So I really wanted to stress with our team that it's important to make sure that it is a team approach to this so that we have a really good picture of the student. And then also, I was so thrilled that even with the weight of the information that I presented, all of our administrative team, all the things that were missteps from the schools in my case study, our team was spot on before I even got to where the other schools had taken some deviations from the path. So we have great teams, and I'm very thankful for that. But it was a great opportunity to be able to get in front of them and say, these are things that happen, and in the busyness of the day, like, take the time to get the team together, involve your teachers, involve your staff, to make sure that we are gathering all the information that's available to us, and making the appropriate recommendations, and getting those safety measures in place.
Thank you. Libby, do you have something you want to add?
I just thought it was really interesting when you did that, because it actually took a real life situation and went through all of the different areas that what each person knew was going on but didn't share together. And then once you bring it together, it was like, oh wow, we missed it here, we missed it there, we missed it. And it was really good to see. And I agree that to have so many different people involved, not just have administrators involved, because they're not communicating with these students like a bus driver is, or a cook, or it was a good presentation. I appreciated it.
Right. And I just want to say that she didn't mention it, but we're looking at threat assessments, threats of harm to other people, but also self-harm. But if you think about this, and unfortunately, we have a lot of incidents in our country where we've had some incidents, and then when they happen, everybody starts to take a step back and wonder what happened. Then they start to connect the dots, and they're like, "Hey, why didn't somebody say something? Why didn't we recognize this? Why didn't we do anything?" We're connecting the dots now, and we're mandated to do this. We're mandated to do these threat assessments, and to be honest with you, it's working out. So now, kind of like what you said, we're not waiting for something bad to happen. We're starting to recognize, and then we're starting to intervene and provide help and support. So, like I said, it was a great presentation. I wish more people could have been there, and maybe we'll have to do that again, maybe in a couple months.
And then after this, is there like a way to kind of trend it and then look at better ways on dealing with other issues or looking at staffing? Is that okay? So that's kind of
Right.
like the long term. You collect it, analyze it collectively across each building, and then determine additional steps. Kind of what we were talking about earlier with
Yeah,
maybe
that's
more staff or
right.
okay.
Yes. Anything else, Mr. Grube? You were there. Anything else?
No, I think it was sufficiently covered. It was really good activity.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you all. We are on still on our board items. The next item is our selection of board members, a student advisory application, our selection of those members. So, according to the resolution, it is for middle school and elementary. It's one person per grade level per building, and then high school is two students per grade for the high school. Just so.
And I would like to make a motion to have it where it's two per grade level at elementary and four per grade level per building at the middle schools and high school.
Okay. So Ms. Grace made a
We
motion.
had an extremely large group that was applied, and I just think that we need to honor that.
I'll second.
Okay, you say it again so I can write it down. Motion.
It would be two per grade per building for elementary and four per grade per building for middle school and high school.
Per grade, per building.
So four per grade for middle and high,
Yeah.
and then two per grade for elementary.
Got it. Okay.
Okay.
That's a motion by Libby first.
Yep, and it was second by Mr. Bauer, Mr. Treasurer.
Yes.
Elementary is fourth and fifth according to the resolution. Middle school is all grades, and high school is all grades. And for context, we've discussed of several other meetings that we grandfathered students in from the previous year. I was just making sure I gave you that information too. Again, that students that were part of student advisory last year were grandfathered in. They would just have to opt out if they did not want to. Can you turn your mic on, sir?
Sorry.
No problem.
So we're creating 36 slots for the elementary, is that right? Is that too much or is that manageable? Am I wrong on the math?
No, yeah, she said that's right. And then I guess she's saying that, can you explain why you wanted to add more again, Ms. Gray, for Mr. Kirchner, please?
No, yeah, I got the idea. I just didn't know as far as group size, if you think that's good and manageable.
Superintendent group, what is your,
Um,
is it too much? There was like 190
And so
applicants or something.
So for each elementary, it'd be 12, right? Two per grade. So it'd be K, 1, 2, 3.
no, only
It's
only
just
four, or
four.
five.
It's only fourth and
Only
fifth.
four.
Okay.
We're not doing all.
Otherwise, yeah.
Four.
Otherwise, that'd be a real big
And
That'd be
number.
real big. That's what I was thinking. Okay.
I
Six?
just did 2 per grade at 9 schools, correct? Am I wrong?
6 elementaries.
6
Oh,
So it's
I screwed
24.
up the math.
It'd be
24,
24.
24 is good.
24.
24 for
Yeah.
the elementary.
That's what I was hesitant. I was doing the
Right,
math in
okay.
my head to make
Got
sure
it.
that was correct.
And we only have 3 middle schools, so we updated those to 4 per grade.
Okay.
So then we should be solid. And then we just adding 2 more per slot for the high school.
Excellent. Okay, thank you.
No problem. So we've got that. Is there any additional questions on this motion?
Superintendent group, do you think that's acceptable or is that too many?
No, I think that's very manageable. And it's a group where everybody can have a voice, but it's also if a few kids are absent or can't come for
Yeah.
another reason, it's still going to be a nice sized group.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any additional questions or comments from the board before we go to roll call, please? All right, if we could have roll call, Mr. Treasurer.
One question. So
Sure.
exactly what is this vote on? Just that we're going to increase the number?
Correct. This is on the motion that Ms. Gray made to increase
Thank you.
2 per grade for the elementary and 4 slots per grade for middle school and high school. And Mr. Bauer has seconded that motion. Okay. All right. If we could have roll call now, Mr. Treasurer, please.
Mr. Kirchner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dattelberg?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, now we're back to review of selection of members. I think there's a couple emails that I did not get to, and I think Ms. Walsh, you had asked about criteria. And last year we did not make it about criteria. We just reviewed the applications and where based off of students' responses, gave them the opportunity to sit at the table. We also wanted to mix it up because we didn't want the same students who were always involved. We wanted to give students who may not have the opportunity to participate in a group of some sort for instance, there were a couple who mentioned how they're introverts. They're not involved but would like the opportunity. I read that on several, couple applications per building. But I think that was your question. So we did not identify criteria. Last year, we did a discussion about students and went from there. So what I would recommend, we won't name names for today. We will use the line number of the Excel spreadsheet that you have access to. So we're not naming names. So really on the Excel spreadsheet for new students, the cell row starts at cell row 3.
So, just want to say that my criteria was how many per grade. That's what I wanted to really
Oh,
know.
I'm so sorry.
So, and when we have the sixth grade, there's like 10 returning sixth graders, but now we're going to limit that to two, or is that per grade per school?
It's 4 per grade.
For elementary, oh, that's middle school, right?
12.
Four per grade per school. Okay.
And originally it was plus carryovers because there are going to be absences and every student's not going to be there. And last year I covered, me and Seth kind of floated between the two. And with the amount that we approved with last year's resolution, we didn't have a lot of students. Sometimes it was only 3 or 4, 5. There was one time we had everybody. So having the extra students will allow to have a decent group present for meetings and discussions. So then that means the grandfathered in is that, but we're still going to accept the new amount that we just voted on a few minutes ago, if that's clear.
So how do we make this selection? I mean, I have the ones that I,
Last year we took we talked about our numbers and then the chairs kind of led that, but there wasn't a solid like voting method. I went back and reviewed, so it was more of a conversation. And then, you recommended who you recommended for elementary, and we discussed those. Same thing for the other chairs. But we did not do a rubric and run anybody through anything like that. We did not do that last year.
okay,
So, so I would like to hear your recommendations for elementary, and then if anyone else has any additional comments,
okay. So for elementary,
just give the cell line.
the cell line.
Like we started 3.
Okay, let me get this smaller because it's
Hmm.
difficult. Okay,
And can you pause for 1 second? I want to make sure that all colleagues have the Excel file that was sent to you, because that is what she'll be reading off of, so you know which student she's speaking of by the cell row versus the name of the student or any other identifiable information. So do you all have that pulled up? It would have come from Miss Atkins in November. I think it's the 22nd or 23rd to be specific.
are we ready? Are you ready?
Mr. Kirshner, if you have the Excel file pulled
I'm
up.
just gonna pretty much bow to the members who were there last time to whatever they
Okay.
decide.
I didn't know
I
if you had
didn't know, I
input.
didn't know if you were trying to get your file.
Yeah, we
open.
didn't want to
That's what we were
move
waiting
ahead
on.
of you.
It is open and
Okay.
everything, but I honestly think that you guys will be fine at making that choice.
Okay.
Who were on the chairs last time? I will bow to your judgment.
Yeah, and last year we all discussed. I just wanted to make sure we were consistent. So
I'm sorry. I was trying to pull up the spreadsheet. I didn't hear the discussion. I didn't have my closed captioning in front of me.
And I would like to add though, just John, I hope you can hear me. I would like to see all the students who are on student council be part of the student advisory if that's possible, if they applied to be, if they asked to be.
Yes.
I think that would be a good thing. That's my only want.
all right, Miss Gray.
Okay. Line 4, line 5, 7, 9, 11, 15, 16, 17. I feel so like this is like so weird. 18, 24, 26, 27, 30, 33, 36, 43, 44, 46. That's it. I don't know how that many that came out because some of there was not two per grade for building. So some of them, I think there was a couple classes that only had one applicant.
Okay. Can you count how many? I think Mr. Power actually.
So I have, if you want to follow along here, I can just recap.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 15, 16, 17, 18, 24, 26, 27, 30, 33, 36, 43, 44, and 46.
Missed 28.
Okay.
19 total.
20.
So, and that also included some that were returned.
Okay. And actually, out of most of yours, I was right on par. Like I looked at my lines when you were speaking and was able to align with that as well. Does
And
anyone?
I just would like to say that reading all of their
Yeah.
applications, it was a joy, and my heart goes out to so many of them that have really poured out their hearts into their comments. It was difficult to make that decision on which ones, but it was. I tried to look at all different thought processes that they were using and things that stuck out that one person would say this and one person would say that. So that way we're able to have a discussion where there's different viewpoints. So that's how I kind of.
Was there room to add one?
Yeah. Because we only had 20.
57?
Is that, I think that's middle school, isn't it?
Yeah, that's middle school. So
No, that was just elementary.
Okay.
Yep.
yeah, that was just elementary. Okay. So I guess I go for. Okay, you can go. You can go. You can go. It's fine.
Middle. All right, so my middle school, let me pull it up here real quick.
Add now additions to.
Hang on. What's that?
I have to add because I did it based off the old calc.
All right, 56. 59. 63. Hang on, sorry. 72. 70. Hold on. Trying to navigate it.
Lines are like this thick.
This one does these two. Oh, hold on. 75 and 76.
Okay.
5, 76. And I think I might be into high school now.
It goes to 90.
Yeah, you got to 94 is when then after that you.
Yeah.
Okay, I have 92,
Mhm.
and that was it for me for middle. Do you want to do yours?
Yeah.
How many is that?
That's
7?
7.
Yep, and I have 93. I'm just gonna go backwards.
Okay.
91. 72 was already mentioned. 70. 69. At 62. 56. is already there. Sorry.
Yeah, 56 was.
My apologies.
I was
That's
gonna
okay.
say that gets us to 12 right now.
And then Kathy, what number was yours that you?
That was 56.
No, it was. I remember the name. It was 57, I think, Kathy. If you double check that, is that right?
57?
Is it 57?
57.
Okay. All right.
So that makes 5.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7,
13.
9, 12, 13.
13.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay.
Want me to read those off to you?
Yep, just so we can triple check, please. Thank you.
56,
Mhm.
59,
Mhm.
63, 72,
Yeah.
75, 76, 92, 93, 91, 70, 69, 62, and 57.
Yes, ma'am. And then we can do high school. And again, just if you're just now tuning in, we're not saying our students are numbers, but to protect identity, we're just naming the line of this where the student is on the Excel spreadsheet, so that we're not violating their privacy. So I just want to make sure I say that again. All right.
You want me to start?
Yep.
Okay. Find the numbers. All right.
109 is where we should start for high school.
Okay.
Oh, yours today, such.
Yeah.
I have mine actually in Excel rather than here's a lot.
Yeah, mine is. Yeah.
It tells you the one number.
113.
Okay.
118. Write these down.
I got
Sorry.
it. I got
Okay.
you. You got 113.
113, 118, 134. There was a lot of good ones in the high school. This one was hard. 139. Yep.
Okay.
157. 178. 180. 186. 187. All right, that was my list.
Okay.
That was 9.
Yep. So then I'm going to go backwards. I had 189. We already had 180. 161. Oh, I'm sorry. 156. All right, at 134. Okay.
If you have more.
I had one more. I think 133. I had one more that was like maybe off. I had like technically 2 more, but it'll be 115 and 114.
115.
And 114. Mm-hmm. 114, 115. So
we have 113,
Mhm.
118, 134, 139, 157, 178, 180, 186, 187, 189, 161, 156, 133, 115, and 114.
yes, ma'am, that's correct.
All right.
Thank you. So I also wanted to give a special thank you. I know she's not here tonight, but Miss Lori Atkins, our secretary, she did a great job. First time working this, trying to get it in. And I actually really appreciate the Excel format and working with Miss Scott's office to get that for us versus the paper ones. Like we were able to make notes and things. So just wanted to publicly thank her for her hard work. Hopefully she's asleep, but if she's not, if she hears it, just wanted to make sure let her know that the board appreciates her. And then the next item, we are on to our music program. So I'll turn it over to Mr. Superintendent.
Sure. So we added music program to the agenda last month, and then did not have answers to some of the questions, and so Mr. Kirschner and I exchanged some emails, and he shared some different things like some reports that he found from other places, and some of those had included surveys. I did ask Carol Morbitzer to pull participation numbers by area, by grade level. What I was really looking for tonight is to really kind of see what we're looking for. What do we need to do to prepare and make the best use of our time? Do I need to bring music people in, have them talk about their recruiting strategy? Do I need to have just to kind of get a clear picture? What we need to do and put a time frame and a focus for what our goal is, so we can be appropriately ready to provide everything the board would like for that. So maybe you can start us with that.
My interest is one specific thing that has come to my attention is that we have eliminated stage band, which is kind of near and dear to my heart, because we didn't have participation of 20 people. And I know from stage band, you don't need 20 people for stage band. You could have a great 8 or 12 person stage band, and stage band's awesome, and it appeals to kids that may not be able to or care about marching band or concert band. They may play a trap set or piano or etc. So it opens up music to additional kids. Would love to see the stage band reinstated. I don't want to say reinstated, but I would love to know that for our next school year, stage band is definitely on the agenda, and that we don't have some high number that we have to hit in order to make the stage band a stage band. Outside of that, I noticed after some of the incidents at the football game, when I showed up, and some of my friends were band members, and I'm like, "Where's the band?" And there was 50 people, and and it used to be hundreds. So my whole thing is, there's a couple of things. One is music helps with education. What are we doing? For me, coming up, music was an important part of Groveport all the way through. I had a first grade teacher. She played Sally, her guitar. She incorporated music in education. We had choir at early grade levels, and encouragement for band in the middle schools, and a big band. We called it the best damn band in the land at the time. And our jazz band got paid to perform at hotels and stuff. The music was really, really cool and vibrant, and I think Libby's got similar experiences. I just want to see it grown back. What do we need to do? Where do we need to farm? What are we doing well? What do we need to do better? Let's get a couple hundred people back in our band. We got a 1,700 or whatever it is high school. 10% participation is not a lofty goal. I've seen schools that have 50% of their high school in the band. Small schools that literally, Newton is like a 300, 400 person high school with 200 people in the band. So we've fallen off, and I'm just curious what we can do to grow it, because I think it engages our students, and we can tie it into education. I don't have any specific goals beyond that. Just learning what we're doing well, where it can go, how we can make it better, and just have a board discussion and get that stuff rolling.
I have a question real quick, just as a brand new band parent. This whole world is new to me. Stage band, is that jazz band?
I was
Is that
going
what
to
you're
ask the same question.
Yeah, we
Okay.
the stage band, jazz band, yeah,
Okay.
jazz improv,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't have to be. A stage band is a stage band. You can do any type of music you want, but it's an ensemble, 15, 12, 15.
So it could be an orchestra as well. So we wouldn't even have to limit ourselves to jazz, but it could be
Right,
brought in
orchestra,
strings.
yeah. I don't know what we have going. Orchestra and choir used to be huge here, and I don't know that I don't even know if we're running orchestra.
Yeah, the orchestra, I mean, when we built the high school, that was the plan. We had brought in a band director that was going to teach the strings.
Okay.
So that we could have, but then found out that wasn't the interest.
I'm sorry.
So I said when we built the new high school, that was the plan. We built the pit so that they could have the orchestra pit.
Right.
For the music program. That was going to be one of the pathway programs. And from my understanding, when they, at the time, students were very interested in that. The theater, the music program, the choir programs, all the performing arts. And then when the high school then was finished, they surveyed the students and there wasn't the interest there that there was.
Yeah, we have.
And I don't know what happened for sure. But I do know that once COVID hit, it really made it difficult for band because how do you teach instruments
Right.
virtually?
Yeah.
you know?
There was COVID. There was a lot of
Yeah.
issues that have to be.
So I know our numbers dropped considerably at that point, but they were dropping prior to that too.
I do have a couple of things, I guess, just to put some parameters upon the ask if we're with us having the discussion. Um, as we're looking at band and we're talking about the band isn't where it was. Can we also find out in survey, is it a matter of not having the means to get an instrument? And do we have the resources or in partnerships where a parent may not be able to afford the instrument? We can then get the instrument or get something discounted. I know there's like the monthly plan and what's already set up through the one instrument shop. I don't know if it's, I think it's still Lane Music down on Main Street. But what if they can't? Is there that's something else for us to look at? So maybe when we're surveying students and maybe parents, hey, if you want, did you want your child in the band? And if so, was it a barrier of and also getting them to and from practice if it's after school? Is there ways for them to get home? Like, what are the barriers that may also not just why they're not there. There may be reasons, so maybe prompt that way. And then the music selection, music changes, and a lot of times students may not be have an interest because the music does not connect with them. So if that is the case, if the music was different, would you consider the band? And if so, what type of genre or song suggestions or something like that to get a feel for maybe why they're missing? And then if we're going to look at band, then the same thing with choirs, because our choirs, are we challenging ourselves even around certain times, like have specialty choirs for special things? So, Women's History Month's in March. Can we have an all girls choir that focuses on going out and, you know what I mean? I don't know. Just things like that. And choral music
Right.
that is for, this is just a suggestion, but maybe those are some of the things that would then help us understand like where we are, because students are not involved for a reason and they'll tell you if we ask them.
Yes.
And then I think there may be barriers, I think, for the instrument piece too in transportation.
And I gave band examples, but band wasn't music is the focus, the whole program. So yeah.
So hopefully that help, Mr. Group, Superintendent Group, like given those parameters, like kind of understanding where we are with our student population and why for both band and choir, and then you looking into how to bring stage band and maybe some specialty choirs.
It's certainly helpful. I think we could come in with a presentation to talk about what do we offer K-12 at the different levels, and then get some of the directors to come in and talk about what could be helpful from recruiting. Are there some of these cost things? What are things we could do? There's sometimes scheduling situations that limit that. So that gives me an idea. And then after we take through a presentation, I think an interactive conversation with the music educators and the board would be great.
And I guess another thing to look at, and this has a monstrous effect, is, and it's not in our control, but the boosters programs have a lot to do with the success of the programs, and I would anticipate that they've probably fallen off as well. And we can encourage, we can't control, but we can certainly look at encouraging and engaging and seeing and make them part of the process as well as the students to find out, the band parents, etc., what their feedback is and what they think we need to improve.
And that could be a part of that family engagement piece we were talking about earlier in general. How do we get our parents involved from not just from a discipline standpoint, but even in our schools that are higher grades and the support? So that could be added to that too.
Yeah, I think a survey would be a great idea for the parents, so we know what they're looking for in the younger grades. Instead of, we don't want to make assumptions. Let's find out what they want. And John, you said the stage band was canceled. When was that? Last year, this year?
I'd heard, I think it was this year, I heard from one
Was
of
that
the
like a
one
middle
of
school?
the directors was pointing out that that was something that happened when I ran into one of the band directors somewhere, and we were just casually talking about it, and they mentioned that stage band, that would be an area where we could make things better, bring that back. So, and honestly, I couldn't I couldn't tell you the name. I think it was a middle school band director, but I got the indication that that happened very recently, but I don't know the specifics.
Thank you. Who makes that decision to cancel programs like that? Like if it was canceled this year, who would have made that decision? I'm just curious.
She said it was all Paul's fault. Just kidding.
Well, I can't answer it, and we're not going to answer all this. I could answer all this, but I think it might be nice to have the band directors come here. We have outstanding band directors.
Okay.
All our music programs.
Yeah.
But there's a couple of things. One, we definitely have an outreach program and some outside programs that help us with instruments. And so if there's a family that needs an instrument, we can make sure they get it. The other thing is reaching down to the fifth grade and start doing like instrument investigations. There is so much talent here that students don't even know they have it yet.
Yeah.
But if you go to a talent show, you'll see our kids are talented. It's amazing. You see what they can do. But I'll say this: we have over 2,000, about 2,000 students in the high school, and we have one band director. Most schools that size have a band director and an assistant band director.
Definitely.
However, with the numbers in our band, you kind of balance it out. So if you have one person providing music instruction for the whole school, and they're teaching 6 periods a day, sometimes you have to make a decision. How do you maximize that one person? And do they do a class with 9, or are they going to do another class that can take 30 kids? So stage band is a smaller class, and we have one person, and we'd rather them work with more kids than a few. So
yes,
that's kind of how that ended up going to the side. But moving forward, and we get the numbers up and the need is there, then we can start looking at an assistant band director. And then now you have a second person that can help with that. And I'm not saying that I'm making any of those decisions and we're adding staff. I'm just saying you look at the numbers, the need and the desire, and matching what our community kids and families want. That's what we're going to go with. Right now, with the numbers that we have in our band, it doesn't require or show a need for an assistant band director at the high school yet. It would be awesome if we could do that. And I think we got some really good people that could fill a position like that. But it also depends on recruitment and retainment from the middle schools and how our outreach program for our fifth grade. And we have some really good middle school directors that are doing that both in band and choir. And to be honest with you, the band has increased each year over the last 3 years, and so has our choir. And we have like our pep band is playing at our basketball games. I didn't know if you guys knew that. At our basketball games, they are outstanding. They'll get that place rocking. And they do that on their own, but they're doing it for credit. And we have one of the band directors helping with that. Looking at specialty bands like stage band and jazz band and some other ones, or our honors and advanced choral groups, or we'd love to do all of that. Yes.
And
Yeah,
Licky
we
said something
definitely-
when you're
we
doing it, make
definitely
sure we
had-
include theater. So just when we're looking
Theater
at it,
involved in
she
that.
just want to make sure we include that.
Right.
I don't know if you heard her.
And I will say, I've seen it throughout my career. I know there's several studies, but the music programs, the art programs, all of these programs and the kids involved and invested in these programs, it does help them academically. It helps with their attendance. It helps with everything. The more we can get kids connected in school, the more invested they are, the more they feel like they belong, the more they feel like they're part of something. And that's what we're trying to do.
Right. Yeah. So, going back to my reference today, yeah, we definitely had a band director, an assistant band director, and the assistant band director in my case was the stage band, music theory. There were quite a lot of other music courses that that assistant would teach, not marching band, but like I said, music theory, stage band, other courses like that. So ensembles, that kind of thing.
All right, thank you. Are there any additional questions or comments on this topic from our colleagues for our superintendent?
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, moving on to our transportation discussion. So I think that was a request. Ms. Walsh wanted to discuss transportation, so we'll turn it over to you.
Well, yeah, we want to have a discussion about the possibility of bringing transportation in-house, what that would look like, savings, the whole 9 yards. Maybe we should have a committee that would look into that. I know that contract is, it seems like we're reactive instead of proactive. That contract is coming to where we're going to have to make a decision on if we extend the contract, if we end the contract. So I think we need to look at those, and I'm going to ask my other board members what they think about the subject. I'm having a little computer problem right now.
I actually just wanted to hear more what your thoughts were for me before yielding any additional comments, but if that's all you have to offer, then that's fine.
I personally think it would be great. We don't have a lot of data or information. In my head and in looking at it, I think there's a pretty big spread between the cost and the overall cost. I know firsthand transitioning from private services back to in-house is a lift, and it's got to be done extremely well. And one idea I had is, engaging the owner and seeing if there's any interest in highly incentivizing him to help with the transition, anything along those lines. But I think we ought to form a committee, not on a long term, but a short term, work with the treasurer, understand things, not rush into anything. We've got a February date coming up very quickly, and then, this will always be on the table. There's now or a year from now or whatever. But I know many years ago, we looked at this, and now we've aligned ourselves finally with the type of staff that would allow us to bring this in, and it would be good for us to be able to speak as a board and understand potential cost savings, potential risks, opportunities, and all that kind of thing. So I certainly don't have answers, but I would love to work with the board and somebody, or for us to work together and kind of get answers to what we see as risk, cost analysis, and where we want to go. But I think the most important thing is the way to make it work is cooperatively. If there's some win-win, big win to make it work and to do a transition over time, I think we ought to look at that and see if it makes sense.
Okay. Any additional comments? And so then you guys, we've heard. Thank you. All right, we're moving.
I'm sorry. Does the board have a thought on the idea of forming a transportation committee for a short time to look at?
I don't have any comment on that right now. So I just wanted to hear, you guys brought it up. I wanted to make sure we heard, but I have my questions I've already given to administration on that. So I don't personally have any additional comment at this time. But I was interested definitely to hear what my colleagues had to state. So thank you so much for sharing. Appreciate it. Okay.
Libby, anybody, no other thoughts on this?
All right. Put it out to the board.
I don't at this time, no.
I think that's disappointing that we're going to be once again reactive instead of proactive, and I am disappointed. But
Ms. Walsh, no one
I
is,
respect your right to have an opinion.
no
Didn't
one,
put an opinion out yet. Just thinking.
exactly. And it wasn't clear on what the ask was, so they need for you to say that we're going one way or another. We just said at this time we didn't have a comment, so putting words in someone's mouth is not appropriate. All right. On to item 5. Um, Approve the resolution to join the Vouchers Hurt Ohio lawsuit. So I'll read that. My mouse is not working. 1 second. All right. If I have a motion, I think first, and then I'll read the resolution. Or do I read the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All right. At first, Mr. Bauer, and then second, Ms. Gray.
What is the motion? Could you read the motion, please?
Well, it's to approve the resolution to join the Vouchers Hurt Ohio, and I'm going to read the resolution. So we've got the first and the second. Now I'm going to read the resolution. You good?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I do have a kind of a
I was going to read the resolution and then we can have discussion if that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas the state has adopted universal voucher system, and whereas Ed Choice vouchers are funded by the state from designated appropriation line items 200 through 550, 200-604, 200-612, and payment to private schools diminishes the amount of funding and levels of educational opportunities in school districts and ESCs. And whereas the deduction of school voucher funds for funds available to authentic public education further reduces the funding available to support the additional needs of minority pupils, pupils in poverty, and pupils with disabilities. And whereas the deduction of school voucher funds from the appropriations that fund authentic public education increases reliance on local tax revenue to maintain school operations in violation of the Ohio Constitution and clear directives of the Ohio Supreme Court. Section 1. Now, therefore, the Board of Education finds and determines that the Universal Voucher Program is harmful to the districts, its pupils, taxpayers, voters, and staff. Section 2. The Board of Education authorizes and directs the school district's joiner of the Ohio Coalition for Equity, Adequacy of School Funding Coalition, and directs the district treasurer to pay coalition dues as set forth in Section 3. Coalition dues, for the school year are the sum of $2 per district pupil, enrollment listed on most recent report card. Dues shall be allocated by the coalition as follows. 50 cents per pupil shall be initially allocated to the payment of coalition operating expenses, and 2, $1.50 per pupil shall be allocated to support the coalition's effort to change the constitutionality of the Ed Choice Voucher Program. Educational dues, a total of $2 per pupil, are payable upon passage of this resolution after a regular meeting of the Groveport Madison School District Board of Education on motion, and then there's the date and all of that. So I will then yield to you, Ms. Walsh. You had a comment.
What type of organization would the money be going to? Is it a 501c3? What is it?
So my understanding Vouchers Heard is a 501. They also are at OSBA, but we're going to get you the true designation if it's a 503 or some other designation. So just stand by. But they also came and presented and provided materials as well. And I can try to find that board meeting where those materials are located if you would like to look at those, if you give me a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
So my understanding is that voucher Hurts Ohio, what you're calling it. That's just kind of like a name, an advertising name. It's the Ohio Coalition for Equity and Adequacy of School Funding. It's not a 501(c)(3), it's a business, and this lawsuit is fully funded. We're having conversations here about students, taxpayers not being able to maybe provide band instruments for their children and us having problems. And so now you want to spend, how much would that be for this, for our district? The total cost for our district?
If it's $2 per student, and we have around 6,400 kids, so $12,800.
And I also, I've been told that the project is fully funded. They do not need money, so I'm not sure why we would. I can see putting forward a statement that we support their effort. I don't see any logic in throwing money at them when they're already fully funded for their lawsuit.
I disagree. I think that it's important that we participate in this for a few reasons. Mainly, though, I think it's important that we advocate for public taxpayer dollars to go towards public schools. One of the issues, and I know we got to hear from both sides, one of the main issues is, $349 million is going towards private schools with this. Private schools can change their tuition rates on the fly if they want to, and they can also pick and choose the students that attend. So I think it's important that we, personally, I feel that it's important that we join this lawsuit and the other districts around us that is going up against this.
So, and to be clear, our surplus has gone, in the little time I've been here, from 30 million to 50 million. So anyone sitting here telling me how vouchers are hurting Ohio, I would say, not. And secondly, these are not vouchers. These are, what's the term? What's the term that's being used? They're not vouchers. You're getting, if you go to college and this college sponsors you, it is a scholarship. They are scholarships
It's
that
a
are being,
scholarship, yeah.
that are
It's called
being
a voucher,
issued.
though.
But additionally, here's the rub. Okay, we're overcrowded at our high school, so now we want to force everyone in the district back to our high school. That makes total sense. Secondly, we've acknowledged we're not where we need to be. My son, thank goodness, the gifted program at Sedalia was honest with me and said, "We got nothing for you, Mr. Kirshner and Jared. We're going to frustrate you. He's 2 and 3 grade levels ahead in every grade. We got nothing for him, but to have him in the high school when he's 11 or 12 years old, you need to go somewhere else." Unfortunately for me, that meant a ton of money out of my pocket. And at one point I couldn't afford it. My parents helped. But so for someone to come in here and say, "Oh, this is just benefiting the rich," this old superintendent is the rich guy we're giving the money to. And he doesn't give a crap about the poor kids. That's my opinion. So I think it's really bold of us. I don't think we're representing the taxpayers in any way that are moving out of this district, that are struggling, that don't want to have their kids at the high school, to say, we're going to shackle you there. And I actually think it's totally counterintuitive. They're going to want out more if you make them. So I think this is just totally a bad move. But beyond that, it's financially ignorant. The project is funded. This person and this group needs no more money to carry on with the lawsuit. So all we're doing is taking from the taxpayer and giving to the rich. So I think it's totally opposite of what you think it is. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
I would just say that I am for school choice. Parents ultimately have the right to determine what school their child should go to. What I would advocate for, though, is that the funding of these vouchers should be a level playing field, and it's not currently. And so that's where I have a big issue with these vouchers, or you call scholarships, is that it's not an even playing field, and we have public funds going to private and charter schools.
And I can tell you as a parent, what's not an even playing field is spending $3,000 or $4,000 in taxes, and then another 3 and 4 to get my kid in a school that can accommodate his giftedness or the education level. And and I'm a cruiser. I wanted my kids to be cruisers, but I also wanted them to be prepared for college. And Groveport wasn't then, and in many cases isn't now prepared to provide for all the kids that are here, and a lot of them don't have the money. And that's just a reality. It's not anti-school, but the truth is, what do you do? If you need that very specific education, it's hard to get and it's expensive. So I just think we're tying the hands of parents when we need to be offering them a lot more options. And this was opened up. This whole program was opened up based on failures of schools that were in academic dire need. And yes, it's probably expanded a little bit from that, but at the same time, all this money is taxpayer money. We're not taking money from anybody but ourselves. We're all paying for this. So again, we obviously respectfully disagree, and I appreciate your input, Seth.
And my understanding of how what was presented to us is that we pay out for these vouchers more than what comes into our district for that student. Is that correct?
We pay out?
Well,
The tax
deducted.
dollars, the tax
It's
dollars.
deducted. More is deducted than what we would receive for that student. Is that correct? But that's what was presented to us during that meeting.
That is correct, because it
Um,
could be based off your home value. So if you're only paying 3,000 in taxes, but then the voucher or scholarship could be valued more. So therefore, what you're putting in those tax dollars, you're actually taking more. So that's what comes to that.
Right. And another
and
point.
Not done.
Yeah.
And then the other issue that I have is that they can select their students. We don't select our students. If it was, you'd end up having the best students. Every school will be picking the best students. And so when it's taxpayers' dollars, I just feel like we should be educating all students. And if they're taking taxpayer dollars, they should be educating all students. There should be no picking and choosing who they want to be in their schools. And then the other thing is they don't follow the same guidelines that we are required to follow. And so our taxpayer dollars are going to something that we're required to do some things and they're not required to do that. Certain types of testing, certain types of curriculum, things like that. It's like if it was an even playing field, that would be one thing, but it's not an even playing field. It's not in the selection process, it's not in the dollars, and it's not in the education.
That's
So
a broad brush. I mean, you're taking every school option, including specific schools for autism that take kids that very difficult kids, as specific schools for people with handicaps, and you're just painting them all with one brush. And you've got a lot of these schools like Madison Christian that have fallen over themselves to meet state standards, and they spent years getting approved by the state and to make sure that they're meeting the state standards. Yes. Is there a criteria to get in? Of course. The final point, I promise, is this. This is the same guy who found, or his organization determined, that schools are unconstitutionally funded. Yay. And we have done what with it? This is exactly what will happen. Even if he wins, the state's going to look and go, yeah, so what? It's unconstitutional, just like funding is. And all we've done is spend our money and that they don't even need. And well, that's all we've done. We've spent money that they don't need. They're already fully funded. We're just giving away tax dollars. And in the end, even if some judge says this is unconstitutional, I seriously doubt that our current legislators are going to worry about it. They also said our BOE, our Board of Education, was unconstitutional, and off they went. So far, being constitutional isn't the measure that our current legislators really care about. So again, a win is a win for this organization and this gentleman's pockets. So thank you.
just so everybody's clear, this money will be going to a business, okay, to fund their initiative. It's not going to a 501c. Secondly, this is going against our scholarship programs. Ohio has 5 of them. They have an autism scholarship, the Cleveland scholarship, the John Peterman Special Needs Scholarship. You know, the John Peterman needs the schools who take those students. They pick their students too, you know, and yeah, some schools don't. We don't even have enough schools to take the kids who want to go to different schools. We have students who we cannot provide the services for, and they should be able to go whatever. The gentleman who came said, "Oh, it's for rich people. It's for the middle class. It's helping the middle class." 135,000 for a family of four. That's not a rich family. That's a middle class. And I have a problem with our school district wanting to hurt our families in our district and our taxpayers. Did we do a survey? Did you do a poll of our taxpayers in our district to see if they want their tax dollar to go to this initiative, to go to this company that's business? I don't think we did that. And we'll be paying actually more into this company's pocket than school districts like Bexley. And then we have conversations earlier today saying we don't have the funds for certain students can't even have an instrument, but you want to throw 12,000 plus dollars at this business. It's a bad decision.
It's 9:30.
Okay. Well,
It's
yes, it is.
9:30. Look, can we move it on?
Well, you had plenty of time to talk, Mr. Kirchner, so everyone
Yeah,
else
I'm
is
all
too.
done.
So, yeah, you can
Thank
turn
you.
your mic off then. Thank you. I do appreciate all the comments. I definitely wanted to make my statement. I definitely concur with what Ms. Gray stated and Mr. Bauer. And no, it's not a brush for all. So I am definitely an advocate for school choice. I've used every bit of that. I've had children in private, public, and charter. And I will say, Madison Christian does not accept all. My son
No, I didn't
has,
say.
but that's the point. So they do pick and choose, and if you're on an IEP slightly, they will deny it.
Yeah, I
So
didn't.
even if
I
hold
didn't
on one
say
second,
that. Yeah.
I'm not saying what you said. I'm just giving my experience. So thank you. Um, Even with the John Peterson Scholarship, I've been a recipient of said John Peterson Scholarship. It does not cover all of the tuition. So if you go to a Marburn Academy or a Spectrum, normally the tuition for K3 education is about $28,000 to $30,000. If you are a student with an IEP, which most about maybe at least from what I saw, it's common to be other health impaired, and they only give you about 10,000 or maybe $9,999. Then the remainder of that bill goes back to that parent. There's also sometimes a psychological evaluation that's not covered by said voucher, which is another $1,500. There's also the enrollment fee or their matriculation fee, which is like another $350. And then if it's your first year, there's another fee on top of the difference of the tuition. So yes, those programs are there, but they are not fully there to help parents, all students. They only help certain students who are able to maybe make up the difference. So whether I'm able to obtain a loan, possibly get financial aid for a portion of the remainder, it still may not cover the remainder of the tuition, or obtain a second job. Also, because their hours are not always in sync with maybe your school district, and where you go, busing can be off. So then the parent is trying to pay for before and after care. So I definitely believe in school choice. School choice is not the issue. The issue is that vouchers be fair across the board and that all students have the same opportunities. I think any parent who has a child with a disability, if they wanted a Christian education, them having an IEP should not be the reason why they can't attend. So we take everyone. Why can't everyone take everyone via a lottery system if that's the case? There's a lot of stipulations when it comes to other schools, if they will or will not take the student based off of special education needs, unless it's a specialty school like a Bridgeway, Spectrum, or Marburn Academy. And I've done my research. There's also I'm verifying, and I did verify verbally, but I'm working on pulling up the business search, but it is a nonprofit and it is fully funded by the school districts. I did also ask for the financials from the organization, and then I also called and talked to the opposing side for vouchers just to hear both sides in addition to what was presented to our school. The other thing that really hit me hard is looking at how we, from a federal level, school districts are not funded appropriately under IDEA. We're only about 11% funded federally. So then, guess what? That IDEA piece is being pulled from our local tax dollars. If school districts were funded appropriately federally, that would then trickle down to the state. We would be able to do more, but that's where those additional things come on to our taxpayers, in addition to things like buildings and such, which that is on the taxpayer. That is, our responsibility. But the other portion is school districts for years have never been fully funded, especially through IDEA. We all know with COVID that has all changed, and that is also we've seen an increase with students with disabilities, and yet our our federal legislatures have not fully funded that by itself. Then we have the full, I guess, to make us whole formula, state formula, and there's no end in mind on that yet either. But we can push the voucher program, but we can't figure how to fully fund public schools. So I have a problem with that, hence where I am with the vouchers. And then there's also a book I would just challenge my colleagues to read if you would like to, if you really want to be open to it, unless you've made up your mind. It's called The Privateers: How Billionaires Created a Culture War and Sold School Vouchers. And that'll be something a good read. I read that in another book that coincides, but I wanted to point that out as a parent, not as a board member tonight, but as a parent that's looked at every option. I love the fact that our state is school choice. I do not want to remove school choice. So I don't think that's what any of my colleagues are saying. What we're saying is if we take them, they should take them. If we have to support them, all have to support them because our educators do. Why shouldn't the others? And if we are held to these state standards and we're required to do these things, they should be required to do the exact same. And then it's our job as electeds to go back to our federal legislatures and state legislatures and say, hey, what's up with fully funding IDEA? We know a lot more children are having more disabilities and issues that would help us in the states. So we're not moving money around, robbing Peter to pay Paul, and then we don't have a parent. We have a parent who would love their child who could go to this amazing school like Marburn, but can't make up the difference of the 28,000 versus the 9,999 that they gave them. So, if after that, I think everyone has made their comments. If we can move to roll call, Mr. Treasurer, please.
Oh, wait,
I have
wait.
one.
Now, and respond to that for sure. Some of that's just not factual. And we have to realize that right now in the Senate are several bills that have been proposed for transparency reporting for private schools. They're making those kind of changes in the Senate.
But
We
they're
shouldn't be
not
doing
made.
it in our district, paying tax dollars that we could be using for our students and telling our students who have already gone out, sorry, you're going to have to come back because we're working on,
No one has said that.
we
You
can't
guys
even
are.
provide the services that you need. It's just wrong.
No one has said that though. That's what you're saying. That is not what I said. That
That's
is
what the
not.
outcome will be for a lot of
That
families
is not
who
the truth.
don't get vouchers.
That is not what the vouchers lawsuit is about, ma'am. And if you guys were at the OSBA conference, there was also both sides there representing and presenting that as well. So no one's saying that we're trying to. It's not to get rid of school choice. It is not. It is to make it a fair playing field for all schools in school choice, whether you're public, private, or charter. It is not to remove anyone's right. Everyone has that right. That's what's great about this country. We three of us on this board have served for this very reason. But what I'm saying is if my child with a disability wishes to attend this school and you tell me you can't, and then or you have the right, which this has actually happened in my family from said private school, you took the money for years and years and years, and now, oh, you're not really cutting it, so we're kicking you out, and then they have to go back on their fifth grade year to a school system that they were not a part of because for whatever reason it's not meeting their requirement. That there's some emotional piece and some other things that are happening with that student that is not being considered. But you had no problem taking that money for 4 to 5 years and make you start in pre-K. So we can't. It's not that. And I will just state for me, my reason for voting or supporting or my stance on vouchers heard is to make school choice fair and that everyone has fair funding. That is what I'm speaking to.
Okay, that's
Everybody won't have fair funding.
I understand the goal and I think it's honorable. I'm not sure that this lawsuit gets you there.
And what you're talking about doesn't
Also,
get me
the
there
John-
either. So
the John
you keep
Peterman,
saying
just so you know, the John Peterman scholarship, the John Peterman has been
Peterson.
infused-
Is that John Peterson? It's Peterson.
Thank you. Has been infused with 200 million since 2023. So I think the analogy you're giving is probably a little outdated. I think that's become more affordable for more people. I do appreciate what you're saying.
It's
about
not actually, and the person who actually started it is actually an endowment. They're actually the same people that started the Marburn Academy, to be clear. So I'm very, very knowledgeable on what I'm speaking of because I can speak to one of the teachers that started the school. So we can go on and on and on, but if we can go to roll call, Mr. Treasurer, please. Thank you.
All right, hold on. That's right. Mr. Kirshner,
No.
Mrs. Dattelberg,
Aye.
Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
and Ms. Walsh.
No.
Motion passes. Now we're on to discuss the date and time for the organizational meeting for 2025. We had some dates already for some other items, and I think I received an email or two, if I'm not mistaken, from Ms. Walsh that some dates have changed. So if we could just kind of rehash out our January dates, please. So we need to get a date and time for our organizational meeting for 2025. Any suggestions?
Yeah, we had date change was for you had set a date, I think, for the first Monday. Was it Monday for boardmanship?
For boardmanship, yes, that's correct.
And yeah, was one of the days that we were looking at. I think it was January.
January 6th is a Monday.
What was that, Libby?
January 6th was Monday.
Yeah, I can't do that. The first 2 Mondays, I'm not going to be able to.
Can we talk about dates that folks can do? So I know that you informed me of that. Is there dates that we are normally the second Wednesday? So the second Wednesday in January would be January 8th. Is that not an option for an organizational meeting
I think
for 2025?
I think we're talking about two different things. I think Kathy, you're talking about the training, right? Boardmanship.
Yes.
I'm speaking of our organizational meeting for 2025.
Okay,
That's what's
so
on the
the
agenda.
organizational meeting. Wednesdays and Thursdays are 2 evenings that I have classes. So I was hoping maybe we could move it to Tuesdays. We had done Tuesdays once before. Maybe move it back to Tuesdays.
I don't recall Tuesdays. Ever since I've been here, it's been Wednesdays.
Or Tuesdays a problem.
We've had,
Yes, it is.
we've had them different days.
It's the same conversation we had a year ago, but I've seen I know the first Wednesdays cause maybe some preparation issues. Is that right? Do I remember that right?
No, first Wednesday this year though was New Year's Day, so I'm just trying to.
No, I'm not talking about for that. I'm sorry. Yeah, in general.
I just
So
want to stay
could we
focused
do-
on doing our
Could we do
organizational.
the 18th? Could we do the 18th?
Well, I got to step in here first because I
State
have
law
I have a
requires.
tax budget that has to be submitted by the 15th of January.
Okay.
So it needs to be
Anything
the
before that.
14th would be really quick to turn around the next
Okay.
day. So
Okay.
for me, I need to be before that.
So,
So-
but isn't there a law that we have to meet and elect our officials by a certain date?
Right.
So we need to know that date.
Yeah, I do remember that. Let me see if I can find it.
So Kathy, you're out for all Wednesdays and Thursdays for 2025.
Sorry.
My classes are on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Yes.
All Wednesdays and Thursdays every day, every week.
There'll probably be a week here and there within the area that there won't be classes, like 2-week pauses. But yeah, those are Wednesdays and Thursdays classes. And I may be able to do the 6th. I definitely can't do the 13th, 14th, 15th.
And the 6th will be way too fast for me to turn around since the holidays or January 1st would close down year end. I won't.
So according to our policy, the board has to meet within the first 15 days of January.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
could we do? Yeah, well, the 6th I can't do because I can't turn around. I can't turn around the 6th. I couldn't do because that'd be too fast. I can't turn around the year end by the 6th. So maybe the 8th. You can't do Wednesday or Thursday.
What about Friday? Friday the 10th.
That's gonna be tough for administration to be
Yeah,
on
on a
a
Friday.
Friday.
That's yeah.
That's
I mean, if
that's
we
an
were,
ask.
what about the 13th Monday?
I'll be at the Cleveland Clinic on the 13th, 14th, and
Oh,
15th.
so you're out 13th, 14th, and 15th.
Mhm.
So, question: is the organizational meeting going to be followed by a regular meeting, or
It typically is.
Yeah,
It typically
would
is.
be.
That would be the point.
Yeah. So if we can't do the 13th, 14th, 15th, then we have to do either the 8th, 9th, or 10th.
Kathy, can you do the 8th?
10th, I could do the 10th.
Could you do the 8th?
I can't do.
Can't do Wednesday or
8th and
Thursday. So the 10th,
So I can do 6th, 7th, 10th.
6th, and 7th would be really tight for.
Can we do the 13th?
No, she can't do the 13th, 14th, or 15th.
Oh, okay.
I'll be at the Cleveland Clinic.
Out of the 6th, 7th, and 10th, I can do. I should be able to do 6th or the 10th.
Again, the 6th is
can't
going to
do
be bad.
7th.
Turnaround amounts.
the 6th is too tight for
It's
you?
too tight, yeah. Just year end, year end and January 1st, like that'd be way too tight. Plus, we get the board agenda out ahead of time. I could not do that. So the 10th, and that's a Friday, but
I hate doing it. Can
I hate
it just
doing
be like the organizational meeting and then have the regular meeting on a different day?
well, yeah,
No, not if we're doing a Friday. That's especially if we're gonna have our staff stay on a Friday. I think that's a hard ask.
Okay, so the
Unless we
7th
just
is
did
not
the
work. So,
organizational one. That's
Just
it.
do the organization.
But then we need to still have a board meeting and then still turn around. And I mean, but then we're
because I need to have an organizational meeting, but we also need a board meeting to do
exactly.
the
We still have to have that
Yes,
to meet his. Absolutely.
right. And so
so the
Well,
as far as the entire board goes, the date preference is to keep
I'll
it on
find this one
Wednesdays.
for me.
Is that a true statement?
But
It would work
organizational meeting.
at least for
Doesn't
some.
matter to Libby. So,
Wednesdays work best for me.
Same here. Wednesdays work
so
best.
question: if we have the regular meeting on the 8th to accommodate everyone, the second and fourth Thursdays, the second and fourth Thursdays are endless 14-hour days for me, starting super early with the food pantry. So if we do the 8th, can we then move our regular meetings to the third Wednesday?
Can we do
Kathy can't do
Tuesday,
Wednesdays at
the
all.
third Tuesday?
sorry.
Can we do
Kathy's not able to do Wednesdays at all.
I get that. I'm just trying to figure a compromise. I know she.
I was as well. I was just trying to figure out dates from everyone first. So, and what are the dates for the food pantry for you?
I'm sorry.
What dates are days of the week?
It's always the second and fourth Thursday of the month.
Okay. And Mr. Collier needs to meet with us about the things to meet his deadline. So, and that we have to do that before the 15th, but still give him time to turn around when he needs to turn around.
right. So I mean,
So if we could do the 8th,
the
at
8th,
least
9th, or 10th would be the best because she can't do the 13th, 14th, 15th. So 8th, 9th, or 10th would be
and the 6th and 7th for you is year end. So that's
it's
why
too
you
close. Yeah.
correct.
Especially
Okay.
to get the agenda out by that Friday. Would
I
be the third,
understand.
yeah.
What if we did the organizational meeting on one day? And then that way we'll be setting the dates and everything. And then the first meeting, have it on the 14th if you have to, because 14th would be
14th, that'd be a quick turnaround, but I'd just have to get it submitted by the next day.
Yeah, that's why we were trying to stay away from the 14th.
I mean, at
so
least
we-
then if we have the organizational meeting, I can be a part of that for setting the schedule. If I have to miss a meeting, it is what it is. I understand that. I'm willing to miss a meeting if I have to for the good of the board, to have the meetings on the day we're supposed to have them. But I would like to be part of the organizational meeting so we can set the schedule because I do want to have a vote on that, all that organizational items. Is that a possibility?
So you're pushing hard for the 7th. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, the 14th, she said.
14th.
No, I'm saying Adam needs it to be on a day for him. So the 14th, but if we could set the organizational meeting for the 7th, then I can be a part of that. And then on the 14th, you have the regular meeting. The organizational meeting will last what, an hour maybe? It's very short. If that, right? It's very short.
Vice president.
And
So,
then the 14th, you know,
Right.
right.
Well, there's a couple other items on it. But, right.
So I move we schedule the organizational meeting for, it's not a vote. Okay,
It's not, it's just a
sorry.
discussion. That's okay. Well, I don't know if it is, then normally we just plan, but if it's not, I don't think it's necessarily an action item, but we can.
So we could do the 7th organizational meeting, 8th regular board meeting.
No, the 14th.
Or 14. And here's
Would be
here's
organizational. 14th would be
throw another wrench into the thing. If we're going to do another bond levy in May, we have to have 2 meetings in January with the first and the second bond passage because it has to be done by February 4th. Now we can always include that with the organization meeting and a regular meeting or something, but just to throw that in there too. Just want to make sure. So.
Oh, thank you for putting that out so we all know that too.
So if we want to do the organization meeting on the 7th, along with a couple little items. No, you'd have to go to a regular meeting. Organization meeting, but again, the organization meeting shouldn't take long because there's only the president and vice president oaths because nobody's new. And then the other dates.
So then we would close that session.
And then go
open
to
a
it
new
like
one,
we
and
normally
have
do.
just one agenda item.
Then have a couple, right, whatever, a couple of
Right.
items we need. Yeah.
And that would be on the 8th.
The 7th.
7th. And then on the 14th or something, or if I can get my, I can't just get that. I won't be able. If we got a regular board on the 14th. No, I don't think so. We should be okay. And that would be the 2 meetings we have in January.
So I can swing one Tuesday. I don't know if I can swing 2 Tuesdays, the 7th and the 14th.
Same.
But I could do. We have to have it before the 15th.
Our tax budget, yeah, before the 15th.
Could we do the 13th?
I could do the 13th.
Can you do the 13th? Can you do the 13th?
She says she can't do it.
So you wouldn't be here the 14th
I'm going to
anyways.
be at the Cleveland.
Right, gotcha. Okay, so she won't be here for so we can do the 13th or 14th.
Now we may come back early enough on Wednesday, but
I can't do it Wednesday. I have to have it submitted by Wednesday.
Okay, yeah.
So
I
if we get it on 13th, that would be better. So then it gives me.
Brain's hurting.
Mine too.
Need some coffee.
Really good.
So question.
If I'm not going to be there on the 14th, you guys can have
We
it
can
on
have
the 13th and give
That's
you
what I'm
more
thinking.
time, because I'm not going to be there. I'm not going to be there. I could probably be there on a call like I've done in the past, because it'll be in the evening, and I'm sure all the evaluation stuff won't be done during the evening.
So if we do organization on the 7th and then the regular meeting on the 13th.
That's fine with me.
All right.
Now, I've had discussions of 6 o'clock rather than 7. Is that possible?
Yes.
I guess my only concern was with well, not for the organization, but going forward when we look at meetings as a whole. I've heard parents, the time that we have is good by the time they get home. At least the parents that have reached out to me, get kids situated. 7 is better for them than to be here versus trying to rush and be here by 6 if they're getting off at 5. So, but before organizational, we can do 6 or earlier because there's not much.
So Mondays and Wednesdays. If we're doing Monday, I can do 6.
Did my closed caption didn't come over okay, Kathy? I saw your face. I don't want. Did it come across okay?
Yeah, I see captions. You're saying 6 o'clock, right?
No, you made a face when I was saying the parents that reached out to me talked about 7 versus 6.
I didn't make a face.
Well, it looked like it. I just wanted to make sure you could hear me. That's all I was asking.
So for this motion, I want is January 7th. This is the organizational meeting. January 7th at 6 p.m.
Yes.
Okay. And we can vote. We can vote
Can
on
you
that.
I didn't think.
So I'm sorry. So Tuesdays, if we could do 7 on Tuesday. I can do 6 on Mondays and Wednesdays, but Tuesday, because I have to pick up my kids, get them back to my house.
So January 7th,
yeah.
7 p.m.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Does that work?
For organizational?
Tuesday.
Okay.
And then Monday, the 13th for the regular meeting
Yes.
at 6?
At 6.
And I will talk to the county auditor about if we can do, because the organizational meeting would have another board meeting right after that to do the first passage. I'll make sure that giving them only 6 days from the 7th to the 13th is quick enough for them to turn around. So I will let you guys know before the 7th, before we set the next meeting.
I had to move something. Is it possible we could at least do 6:30 on the 13th and not 6?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
What about Saturday?
No, I'm sorry. I will not do that to our administration, and I won't do it to my family.
All right. So for this motion, it's January 7th at 7 p.m. Correct? For
Yep,
organizational.
January 7th at 7 p.m.
Yes.
for organizational, and then
7. Correct.
and then January 13th regular board meeting at 6:30 p.m.,
Got you.
which will be the halfway point.
At 6:30. Okay. All right. Now we didn't any motion. Yep.
I make that motion.
All right. Lily makes the motion.
Second.
Okay.
Roll call, Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Kirshner.
Aye.
Mrs. Alberg.
Aye.
Mr. Bowers.
Aye.
Ms. Gray.
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
Right.
Motion passes. I don't know how much time we would like to add on to this, but there's the Mr. Psalm was so kind to present to us a month or so ago about the request from the board about updated AV equipment, and provided us access to the documentation and the consultant. So just wanted to make sure it didn't get lost, or no one thought it was forgotten about. Just wanted they're waiting on us to kind of provide next steps. Is there something else that's needed, or if you all would like to table it, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure this did not get lost as a request of the board.
I'm sorry, before we move on to this topic, did we need to appoint a chairperson? I was just reading the thing. Do we have to appoint a chairperson for the meeting, or do we do that at the organization?
Yeah, previously we've just had the current president oversees that organization.
Okay,
meeting.
all right. Thank you. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So this is just a follow up on what was presented for additional questions or any next steps for Mr. Psalm to move forward about the new equipment here in our boardroom.
I do have additional information I can share
Sure.
about where I'm at in the process. I am working on getting a scope of work from Mark that board member Kirshner connected me to. I have scheduled after the first of the year to have another sound company, X-Tech, come out and assess the situation and get me a quote. I have also contacted two transcription companies and had a demo of one. I was hoping to demo that tonight, but I couldn't get to work. Not a good sign. It kept giving me an error that I didn't give credentials to the Google Meet, but there's no place to add credentials to the Google Meet. I opened a support ticket and they were like, "What do you mean?" So, on that note, the pricing for it, and that was just a demo how the transcription services work. Accurate, good. That's not for live transcription. Their pricing for live transcription is, depending on the application, anywhere from $6.50 to $16 per minute. So, at our board meeting lengths at $6.50, you're looking at a minimum of about $2,300 per meeting for Rev's transcription, live transcription services. I don't yet have scheduled, but I'm in contact with Digital Nirvana and getting a demo scheduled with them for their product for transcription. So that's the update I have for you as far as I will in January have 3 quotes for the sound system. and hopefully at least have two of the transcription services demoed, and maybe one of those other two companies will have a different transcription solution.
Nate, the one transcription service that you demoed, you talked about live transcription pricing. Is there a different model?
Yeah, so the product is like a bot that you join the meet and it listens, records the meet, and then transcribes, but it's not a live closed caption transcription. So then I can go into my dashboard and look at the transcription of the meeting, but that isn't the live transcription or closed captioning isn't included in that product. And there's 3 tiers of that product: the free, business, and enterprise. But then the AI transcription or live transcription is a separate product itself, which had the price that I
How did the
shared.
demo, was it the demo, the live version of the
The
lesson?
demo was actually just the note taker transcription.
Did it work well? Oh, okay.
It worked well for the sales rep that was demoing it to me, but I couldn't get it to work. Or as of yet, have not gotten it to work. I have a support ticket open with the company.
And it could be that our like everything you've said, came out perfectly.
Mhm.
It could be with an improved audio system that we see a great improvement on our closed captioning as well. The
Mhm.
one we're using now, it could be a great improvement just by having a better functioning audio system.
I think Google's always improving, and also the louder or the more gain on the feed into the system, and the louder and more clearly the person speaking speaks has a lot of impact on.
Thank you. Are there any additional questions for Mr. Sonum or any additional things that the board wanted to add for direction on this topic? Okay, thank you. Our last item is the membership in the legal assistance fund. Is that you, Mr. Superintendent, or do I need to read that?
Mr. Collier, is that you?
Yeah, I can do it. It's recommended that the Madison Schools Board of Education join the Ohio School Boards Association or OSBA Legal Assistance Fund at the cost of $250.
So moved.
So second,
Yes,
Libby and John.
yeah.
that's correct.
Okay.
Any comments or questions from the board? Okay, we have roll call, Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Kirschner.
Aye.
Mrs. Dahlberger.
Aye.
Mr. Bauer.
Aye.
Ms. Grant.
Aye.
Ms. Walsh.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Okay, onto the superintendent's agenda. We have the business service update. We had this listed as a separate update. So Dave, have you come up and do that?
Okay, I will try and be very brief. Basically, the update is in regards to playgrounds, just sort of updating you on where we're at with that and what we've got accomplished. The good news is right now we haven't had any further vandalism. Everything's going very well. We are still checking from the maintenance department and operations, still checking regularly, as recently as today. But also some of the things that I've been briefing the board on over the past couple months. The playground replacement items are scheduled to arriving by the end of this month. I think the first one's coming on the 30th. Ventura will start installing them as they arrive. So I realize there was a little bit of a long lead time with those items, but they are starting to arrive this month. So that will all be taken care of as they come in. As far as cameras go, EPS and our outstanding technology department have partnered to install cameras on our playgrounds. I know our technology department is working on helping to pull the cable to keep the cost down and make it manageable. We're adding a total of 15 cameras to the elementary schools. And you'll see we're adding 3 at Asbury, 2 at Groveport, 3 at Sedalia, 2 at Dunlow, one at Madison, and four at Glendenning. And that's based on when Nate worked with EPS, they created models on actually what the cameras would see and trying to provide coverage to our playgrounds in some of our more difficult areas. So that will also start happening. I actually had a meeting with EPS yesterday, and they will be on site over Christmas break to start doing their part of that camera installation. As far as playground inspections go, I'll go down through this, and on the next slide, I can show you an example of what we're using. But the daily playgrounds inspections are completed by the head custodian. Deficiencies are entered into a comment box that district maintenance can see, and that way they can address it immediately. The buildings without playgrounds also are now having exterior inspections. So basically the middle schools and the high schools. On the spreadsheet I'm about to show you, they have a tab on there also. So they're required to at least check the exterior of their buildings for vandalism, lights out, broken glass, windows, things of that nature. And then we're still having the annual playground inspections are done by the district's maintenance department. And then if you can go to the next one, Nate. Okay, the daily playground inspections. This is a Google sheet that I created and shared with all of the head custodians, all of the building principals, and all of the maintenance department. So this is a live document that gets updated daily. And Nate, can you click on daily inspections, please?
Yeah, that I got too when I tried it.
You should have it now. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet that's created. There'll be a new one created monthly. You can see the dates across the top. Basically, I have over on the left side the building name and what they need to be inspecting on a daily basis. Then they can come in and basically just give a quick drop down whether it's satisfactory or unsatisfactory. The ends are not inspected, so weekends or if they happen to be out sick or something for that day. When you scroll down a little bit, the direction I gave was if you have to mark unsatisfactory, you have to put a comment in on what the problem is so the maintenance department can see. So that's what they've started doing down here. This was done at the very beginning. We had a head custodian meeting the other day, and I showed them how to insert a note. So it's not running all the way across the screen. Basically, when they insert the note, it leaves a little flag in the box, and then the maintenance department just clicks on that flag and they can read it, and then they know to address it. But if you can see across the bottom, there's a different tab for every school, and so they can put in the comments. The building principals can see this, like I mentioned. So if there's any issues or if things aren't getting inspected, it's just another set of eyes to make sure we're following through and keeping an eye on our playgrounds and making sure that they're where they should be. Any questions about this before I go on to the next one? Yes, down at the bottom where we have comments, they can put anything they want to down there. Any other questions on this?
No, looks great. I think this would be great for the trend. You'll be able to trend. So thank you for that.
And then on the other, this, the monthly inspection, as I believe the form I showed you before, it's in Public School Works. It's the same one that they'll still do on a monthly basis and keep on file. And then the other one is done by our district maintenance department, which is our annual ones, which is also kept in Public School Works. So those two really aren't new. I was just trying to show the whole process. Any questions?
Thank you. Sorry. I noticed we've got the three Peterman, whatever, donated buses. Well, we won't, whatever, part of the settlement. The buses were in. The doors were open when it was pouring rain, and they're in an unsecured area by the end of the football field. And so I didn't know if there was a plan to get them secured or if they were still there or what.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that they were unsecured. I'll look into that first thing tomorrow.
Yeah, and then there's one of our own buses, I think, parked in the same area on the grass.
Yeah, that one is to be disposed.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm sorry, are they going to be taken to a secure area? The buses?
They will be. I mean, right now the parking's tight over at as far as the Peterman buses, the blue and white ones. We can probably get them over at the 4500 location. Just right now, parking was tight, and with just opening the facility, we were trying to get everything up and running smoothly over there before we worried about those.
Okay, yeah, I know a lot of people are having their tanks drilled and things vandalized, so that would be great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Mr. Thomas?
Ladies and gentlemen of the board, administration, my report stands as submitted. A couple comments that I'd like to make. We're going to have our Christmas party tomorrow, 9:30. All are welcome. Venus Bailey, one of our drivers, is the caterer. She does a really good job. They're all excited. House Bill 279, that's where the state legislators are trying to access the rainy day fund to provide more funding for transportation. One of the things on Teresa's wish list is to get the external cameras on the side of the bus so you can catch passing motorists. Hopefully, we can access those monies and get those. They're about $1,000 a bus, and they're certainly worthwhile. As far as the 3 Peterman buses and the band bus and the other bus, there is no room at the end at 4,500. You bought another bus last month. There's 80 parking places and 79 buses. So that's the problem over there. That's why those buses are stored over there at 4,400. And then we still need a resolution on the band bus. The band bus is sitting in limbo. It's available. I know the band parents would like to have it. I got feedback on it, but we need to know who's going to own the bus, who's going to insure the bus, and how that's done. And right now, the band bus is over at 4,500. But if you'll recall, that's the one that the floor couldn't be repaired, so we went ahead and made it a good bus for the band instruments. But we'd really like to have a resolution on that. The fresh food commissary has been implemented. AVI, you should go over and see, instead of having vending machines for the drivers all day, they now have fresh food available, and it's in a kiosk basis. So even though it's under video surveillance, the drivers still have to pay for it, but it's a lot more options, and it's nice for them. Some of them spend a lot of time during the day. The other big thing is we're implementing our safety and training calendar. So your 3 OBIs, because we're staffed up, your OBIs, your onboard instructors, do not have to drive. In almost every school district in the country, your trainers are driving, and it's hard to train if you're driving. So we not only have trainees, we have trainers, and they are doing in-service training. They're using your wonderful video system. You have the Xeon video system. It's real easy to clip videos, and instead of just reacting to incidents on the bus for when there's bad behavior, they are using the video systems proactively to monitor the drivers, their safe driving habits, how they handle behavior management, and all that other wonderful things that school bus drivers have to do every day. I think that covers what I'd like to say. Are there any questions? Merry Christmas.
Thanks. Thank you, Terry. Our next item, Superintendent recommends Groveport Madison Local Board of Education approve the minutes for the November 6th, 2024 regular board meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have Ms. Gray first, Mr. Bauer second. Any comments from the board?
Yeah, I sent some things that I saw that were not quite right, and I don't know if those got changed. I couldn't send them until I emailed them.
When did you email and say you
Oh,
didn't get anything?
it was Friday, I think, maybe. maybe not. I don't know.
I don't think I didn't get an email. Yeah.
I would have done it sooner, but I didn't have access to my computer because of the change, so I was having trouble getting on. Um, Thanks, Nate, for fixing that and getting me all up and running.
Do you want to share the changes, or do you have anything to send to us now?
Okay, I can share those. So on page 1, item B, we had a discussion about going into executive session, and we actually moved. The whole discussion is missing. The meeting stopped, and then we came back.
Can you forward your email to the board?
Could you repeat that, please?
That what you're reading, can you forward the email that you sent to the board, please?
I don't think I can, actually. I can try to find that. Search. I think I sent that from my home email, from my,
Okay, I
and
was just
that's
trying to
why.
follow along. Okay, sorry about that. Thank you.
So are we voting as is?
I noted in the content that Kathy has some changes, but I did note that.
Yeah, I guess, Kathy, if you have those, we can always come back and amend to make any changes. If you want to get that to the board, that's an option as well.
I didn't have the updated until I got here, so I just assumed they'd been changed.
Okay, if we could just have roll call as is, and if there's anyone that ever has a change that we couldn't get to or wasn't able to share to discuss, we can always put a motion on the floor to amend those meeting minutes. If we could have roll call, Mr. Treasurer, please.
Mr. Kirschner?
No.
Mrs. Datterberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Nope.
Motion passes.
Superintendent recommends Groveport Madison Local School Board of Education approve the minutes of November 13th, 2024 Parent Advisory Meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions from anyone?
Yeah, I did notice that there was a recommendation for an officer and a second, but the vote was not recorded. Also, it would be great to note I don't know if it matters, but I didn't participate in any voting. That was not there for that purpose, so I abstained from any voting.
Okay. So
Yeah, that motion actually passed. I was at that meeting, and then there's one other thing. Oh, and that would have been moved up. Action number 24003 was to amend 24002. So actually 24002 was amended to have one parent officer, and I think actually it was like at least one, but whatever.
I think it states that there is one parent officer. They amended that motion, it says.
Under action 24003, amended motion by Ashley Zimmer to have
yep,
one
and second by Ms. Sweeney.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we have roll call, please.
Yes.
Is a roll call with those changes?
There's the amendment there. So what are you saying? What change are you, what motion are you making to change?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I'm not following.
What change are you speaking of?
To have record the vote that was taken on action, which one was it? The motion, well, it doesn't even have the action on there, actually. It should. It was action, it would have been action of 4. I don't know why this is missing, but there was a motion by Ashley Zimmer to nominate herself as president, as parent officer for the committee, second by Cassandra Lewis. There was a vote taken. It passed. I think it was 2-8. I'm not sure of the
Yeah, we
exact total vote, but that vote passed. But that's not recorded here.
Okay.
That's on page 2. Well, there's no page numbers, but that would have been page 2.
Okay, yep. We'll just add motion as passes under the any fact where she motioned to nominate herself. And then that vote, 'cause
motion passed.
we just need to add motion passes. So that will be with that change then, Ms. Walsh.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So the vote is for the parent advisory meeting minutes for November with the change to add that the motion passes for the self-nomination of the parent officer.
And that's action
3.
003.
It doesn't have a number.
Actually, this motion was to amend this motion.
So there's no
And
action
this
number
was
really.
a new action.
Okay, so it's just Ms. Zimmer motion passes to nominate herself.
Yes.
Please.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Got it. Okay.
We got roll call, Mr. Treasurer, please.
Yep. Mr. Kirschner?
Aye.
Ms. Dadelberger?
Aye.
Ms. Bauer?
Aye.
Mrs. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Superintendent recommends Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve the GMLEA Memorandum of Understanding.
So moved.
Second.
I have Mr. Bauer, Ms. Gray.
This MOU was to clarify some evaluation procedures with GMLEA.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Yes, did we fall behind on evaluations, or what is the reasoning behind the memorandum, please?
Carol, would you mind coming up?
This is to clarify the language on what happens if we were to miss a timeline. Not necessarily that anything has happened, but in the past, the contract, if you violate a timeline, basically the evaluation ended. So what that does in the system is that puts that teacher on a full evaluation the very next year, which we kind of looked at. If maybe we missed a timeline by a day in March, that would have put that teacher on a full evaluation next year after they had already been on a full one this year. And we didn't want to do that. So continue with the evaluation. If it happens to be lower than the previous rating, we'll take the higher of the 2 ratings, is what we came to agreement on.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments from the board? Okay, if we can have roll call, please.
Mr. Kirschner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dadelberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Superintendent recommends Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve the following certificated personnel items as outlined on the certified board agenda attachment.
So moved.
Second.
I Ms. Gray first, Mr. Bauer second. Any questions or comments from the board? Okay, if we can have roll call then, Mr. Treasurer, please.
Yes, Mr. Kirschner?
Aye.
Mrs. Dadelberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Superintendent recommends Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve the following non-certificated personnel items as outlined on the classified board agenda attachment.
So moved.
Second.
I Ms. Gray first, Mr. Bauer second. Any questions or comments from the board?
It looked like we had a lot of resignations from the educational aides. So have those, are we having trouble in that department? Are we going to be able to fill those?
Mr. Trace or Mr. Hausman, which one of you want to address that?
As you can see, we have had some resignations for many different reasons. We've had some movement also, but we seem to be able to find many of our residents are actually stepping up and applying for these positions.
That's great.
So,
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, roll call, Mr. Treasurer, please.
Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Mrs. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Littleberger?
Aye.
Ms. Kirscher?
Aye.
Motion passes.
I thought we'd skip item 7 tonight. It's a joke. Bad joke. Superintendent recommends that the Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve payment in lieu for the transportation reimbursement. The Ohio law allows for public school districts to determine the impracticality of transporting resident students attending schools not located within the district after consideration of a number of factors. Upon that determination, the school district is permitted to offer payment in lieu of transportation to the parent/guardian. Transportation Department has completed studies, and residents in the affected areas may be offered payment in lieu for the
I changed it to 2024-25 already.
2024-2025
And I'll
school
make
year.
a note to change that.
The initial list of families being offered payment in lieu of transportation is attached as executive content since it lists students' names.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Gray first, Mr. Bauer second. Any questions or comments from the board?
Yeah, I just, again, not a fan of this. I see Hartley's on there. I noticed from some other documents that Crystal Ray, which is also a parochial high school, then we are transporting to them and they're downtown. They're farther away. It's just confusing to me. Doesn't make any sense.
So each one is based on the criteria that's listed there. Teresa Ritchie, our transportation director, and the person who oversees this from the Ohio Department of Education, we were trying to get in before. We'll be coming to the January meeting to talk about the process we use, and I guess I don't know what else to say on that part.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any additional questions or comments at this time? And Mr. Treasurer, if we could have roll call, please.
Mr. Kirschner?
No.
Mrs. Littleberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
No.
Motion passes.
Superintendent recommends the Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve the bowling field trip to Bellefontaine, Ohio.
So moved.
Second.
I have Ms. Gray first, Mr. Bauer second. Any questions or comments, Mr.
I
Superintendent?
apologize. I'm forgetting which is which. One is in a couple days and one has already taken place. I think this might be the one that's already taken place.
This one looks like it's December 21st, so maybe the basketball one is.
All right. And that's because of the distance.
Any questions or comments from the board? Roll call, please, Mr. Treasurer, please.
Mrs. Walsh?
Aye.
Mrs. Gray?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Littleberger?
Aye.
And Ms. Kirschner?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Superintendent recommends the Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve the basketball team's trip as outlined in the attachment.
So moved.
Second.
I have John and Mr. Bauer. Do you have any additional comments, Mr. Superintendent?
Not unless there are questions.
Are there any questions or comments from the board? Okay, we could move to roll call then, Mr. Treasurer.
Mr. Kirschner? Aye. Mrs. Littleberger?
Aye.
Mr. Bauer?
Aye.
Ms. Gray?
Aye.
And Ms. Walsh?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Former item 10, we already did, we moved up in the agenda. The final one, item 11, approved special education contract. Superintendent recommends that the Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education approve the special education contract with Emergus for assignment confirmation of Colin McNulty, the occupational therapist.
So moved.
Second.
All right, got John and Mr. Bauer. Any questions or additional comments from you, Mr. Superintendent?
Comment I would add, we had, I think there was a new printout of this at your table tonight. This is one that's actually an auto renewal, but we updated the names to make sure it's up to date. Miss Angelini, do you want to, is there anything else we need to say about this contract?
Wait till I get up here. So with the second contract that you see listed, if you go to section 2.2, so this contract, it indicates that it automatically renews unless we terminate that. So that's a little bit different than typical contracts, but that's what it indicates in 2.2 under renewal. So the agreement shall automatically renew at the end of the term for successive one-year terms unless either party provides written notice of at least 30 days prior to the end of the term. So that's what that contract states. So it's been in place, I think, since 2023 was the original date. I had them update the date just to see that it's a new person, not necessarily a new contract. And then the staff listed on page 19 were old, so I had them update page 19.
So do you have like that on a reminder that we need to review this contract, make sure we meet it every year?
Yeah, and I'm in touch with the company frequently, so they reach out pretty often. But yes, if we don't need it, we won't renew it.
So it's basically the company name changed, it looks like.
It did. It was Maxim before, and now it's America. So
And then this Colin McNulty is a addition to this. He's like an addendum, or
so that's a separate contract. He is actually replacing one of our virtual occupational therapists because we agreed to try to replace the virtual staff that we have with in person. So
But-
that will be an in person.
But he's an attachment to this, correct? Yes, it is. Right.
Yeah, it's attachment C.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
the first one
Yeah,
that you
that's
have.
the first thing. Yeah.
Well, I'm glad this is here because the other one confused me a lot.
Nope. Yeah, that's the new one.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah, Adam, is it typical? I know there was a time when contracts with boards and governments weren't to auto renew. Is that an issue on
No.
here? Okay, thank you.
We got roll call, Mr. Treasurer, if there's no additional questions or comments.
Yes. Mrs. Walsh,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Ms. Studelberger,
Aye.
Mr. Kirschner.
Aye.
Motion passes and we're on to the treasurer's agenda.
All right. First motion is Treasurer recommends that the Groveport Madison Schools Boards of Education accept the cash donation in the amount of $15,000 Middle School North for the purpose of sponsoring the Washington D.C. trip.
So moved.
Second.
This is a very generous donation.
Yes, very nice.
All right, Ms. Gray and Sean.
Mhm.
We got a roll call then, Mr. Treasurer, unless there's questions from the board.
And I have a comment is I would like to thank them for donating this to our district families.
Yeah, and I would like to thank them as well. My son is actually one of the recipients, so I will have to abstain my vote, but cannot thank this family enough for their generous donation to Middle School North for this trip.
Yep, thank you very much.
All right.
I'll vote twice for Seth.
I'll make sure you abstain. Okay. Mrs. Walsh,
Aye.
Ms. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Bauer,
Abstain.
Ms. Studelberger,
Aye.
Mr. Kirschner.
Aye, aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Another donation. Treasurer recommends that the Groveport Madison Schools Board of Education accept the cash donation amount of $250 to the Groveport Madison High School Choir.
So moved.
All right,
John,
got
that's-
Ms. Gray and then Mr. John second.
Yeah, that's fine.
Any questions or comments from the board?
Big thank you for helping our choir.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Mrs. Walsh,
Aye.
Mrs. Gray,
Aye.
Mr. Bauer,
Aye.
Mrs. Studelberger,
Aye.
and Mr. Kirschner.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, I'm on to my treasurer's reports. Let me link in real quick. Okay. There we go. All right. make that bigger, Nate, or do I have to? I have to, I think. Real quick though, going through November, typical month again. Our state foundation came in just a little bit less, but more than in September. Everything else stayed about the same. $4 million in revenue, and our expenses about 7.7. So again, negative 3.7 for the month. But again, we get our big tax settlements in August and in March. The rest of the months, we're negative. But my numbers are still looking good for my 5-year forecast I did last November, and I'm still liking where the numbers are coming in at and stuff. So
Awesome.
no problem on cash flow. Revenue chart again just shows most of our money came in, obviously state foundation, about 3.5 million of it, and we have a little bit of other stuff. Expenses, again, 76% of our expenses are personnel, insurance, and retirement, like normal. And then changes from prior year, actually not too many, very similar from November last year. We had a settlement. That's what we got the more on the other revenues, the $209,000 difference from last year. And then the increase in salary and all benefits is kind of the other big changes from prior year. And we just had less capital outlay this November than we did last November. So that's good. But again, all the numbers are looking good, and I'm happy with them. ESSER update. We have spent all the funds, so we are good to go with ESSER. We got everything done by 12/31. Yes. I'd like to shout out to my office, especially Tanya Boyd. She worked great with Sarah Bricker-Neckler and everything. But yeah, the last check we had to beg them. We're like, "Can you send us an invoice because the work's done?" And we sent them a check, and so by 12/31 we'll be done.
Awesome.
So, awesome. Oh, sorry. The last amount of money, the check, we actually had to say, "Hey, send us an invoice," because the work was done. It's like, send us an invoice so we can get this done by 12/31. So they finally did that, and then we cut the check, and then so we are all done. We spent all the ESSER money. I like that. We use Sarah McNally. Make sure prevailing wages and everything. We've been using her from the whole ESSER, even before I got here, but just to make sure make sure we were legal. So that's why I said a big shout out to her. She worked with Tanya on every payment to make sure we were legal, paying prevailing wages and everything. So, no, you're good. And then bond discussion, I kind of said it earlier. We had 2 meetings in January because we have to have that if we're going to do that by February 4th. But I already talked about that. So that's all I have.
So do we need to do that? I mean, I think the voters said their piece at the last election. And how much money does it cost for us to put something on a bond?
I don't have much, but since there's going to be a lot of state issues on in May, it's not going to cost as much. It's not like a special election where you pay a lot. It's a normal election.
Can you repeat that, Kathy? I didn't hear you.
She wouldn't know how much it costs for a special or to have this election. Like sometimes there's a special election, so you got to upfront a lot of costs. But since there's going to be a lot on, it's going to be a normal election.
Okay. All right. Any additional comments on this or questions from the board? Okay. On the comments, announcements, and other business.
So I have a couple things. I just want to give a huge shout out to Glendenning for their donation to Groveport Madison Human Needs. The kids over there, with their donation, they did $2,487, which directly impacts kids and families in our school district. And because of that and several other donations, Austin Snyder, who's the kicker for Ohio State, he did a toy drive. And was able to collect enough toys that filled up a U-Haul, which was incredible. We were able to, with Human Needs, 174 kids were adopted, and we had 113 kids receive gifts as well. So just wanted to say thank you so much to Glendenning, the students over there, and Austin Snyder for running the toy drive. And then in addition to that, the Groveport Madison High School, gotta give them a shout out. The swim team did their swimathon. They had 18 swimmers do the swimathon. They reached their donation goals. All the kids did. And just, again, I know I've said it before, but the coaches over there are doing an awesome job with the kids, and really proud of where they're headed. So.
I just wanted to say I was not able to go to the OSBA conference because that's during my busiest time of this year at work. And but I did get online and downloaded some of the documents, and I would like for us to consider. There was one that had to do with a board membership, just a handbook for new board members. And I think that would be a great tool for our board to adopt something like that. It just goes through all of the criteria, what the responsibilities are, just things that roll forward, phone numbers, contact information, those types of things. And I think it would be great for the board to have.
Yeah, I would echo that. I sat in a meeting with Toledo City School Boards and their superintendent, and they had developed their own as well and had some great input about committees that I'd like to discuss at an upcoming meeting when we can do a little OSBA recap. I'm sure we all took away some cool things from that.
A couple things I'll share. One is there's all the holiday concerts and things going on, and if you have a bad day and you just want a reason to put a smile on your face, go to some of those concerts or go to a sporting event. Just see our kids doing the good thing that they're doing. It's really good, and it warms my heart. The other thing I'll tell you, Paul and I didn't go to OSBA, and we actually moved the meeting to allow us to go to a safety conference. In safety conferences, you get to see all the new technology and different things and artificial intelligence, but this is honestly my single biggest takeaway, and I've tried to say it as many times with as many people as possible. One of the sessions we sat in, and it was an overview going over a school attack in Nashville, but as obvious as it seems, you want to protect kids, you got to have doors. You know, there's all the different safety plans and things like that. People don't get shot behind closed and locked doors. Now that's not 100%, but it's like 99%. You know, and the other thing is, it slows victims down and it removes it. A lot of times they pull and tug and they'll go on to the next thing and slow it down. It gives responders a time to get there and react. But it really hit me as we were listening to this as a ton of bricks. Doors are a very simple solution, an obvious solution that we need to have our kids behind doors.
I'd like to share a couple things from the conference. It was great, and it was good to get into that. I will say, being at the conference, there was a lot of sessions that reinforced that we're doing great things in this school district. We have a lot to be proud of. I will say, at the vendor part of it, we had Evolve was there, and they knew about us and they knew our implementation. Uh, they even knew Jamie and I when we walked by. But what a couple of things with the sessions was the communication and collaboration with the local first responders. That's a priority for us, and that was in the sessions a must that school districts should take away. The other one is that I'm real proud of, especially with our football games. They spend a lot of time talking about securing extracurricular events. Also, our safety alarms and having some designation and differentiation between our alarms. So if everybody's used to hearing the fire alarm, and the fire alarm goes off, and that means, hey, it's evacuation because there might be a fire. However, they talked about the importance of having some designation between alarms, and if we have to evacuate for a safety reason, or if there's a safety incident, that there's a different sound, and it's a blue light. And when they explained that, it made perfect sense. And so Jamie and I were talking about what that might look like in our district. And then the other piece, and this is the last one, I won't talk too much about this, but it's pretty big. You see how I'm wearing my ID, and within the ID, and all the staff have IDs. We can connect to this ID a 911 alerter system for all of our staff. And what happens is it depends on how we do it, but to make it basic, is you have to push this button 4 times. Once you push it 4 times, it alerts 911. It's GPS located in the building. They have maps of our building, and it will even go down to even the classroom. So if I'm in room 211 and I hit my button, it knows I'm alerting in room 211 at the high school. So we're looking at working with Navigate 360. Dave's been talking with them about getting a quote and possibly implementing those in our school district.
And an opportunity there, possibility, and you probably heard this, is versus an alarm, you can have an alarm in a voice, which tends to get people's attention and clarify, I think, better than anything.
Yeah, that's correct. They did say that. That's right. Thank you.
And I'd like to give a shout out to the Dunlow PTA for securing coach for our students. That was awesome. And I would like to see us have a discussion on the agenda for not January, because I probably won't be at that meeting, but getting lockers in use at the high school, or maybe even getting some lockers. So I know we don't have enough, but we did at the facilities meeting. Jamie came up with a good plan on adding classrooms. Maybe we could add lockers to that area. I think those students need to have a place to put their winter gear. I think it's important. I think for us to expect all our students to carry around their coats all winter long and backpacks and our boots, it's kind of disrespectful to them. And I think if we can do something about it, we should do everything in our power to do that, and at least talk about it and look at it. Thanks. That's it.
Okay.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a moment just to thank all of our administrators who are here for an awesome year. I know some of you all came mid-year. Thank you for being a part of the team, jumping right in, adapting and being flexible, and finding ways to do what you do best. And thank all of our teachers, all of our staff, custodians, volunteers, and then also wanted to special thanks to the Groveport PTO. They did an amazing Polar Express event on Friday, and I had the pleasure of going and serving. And they've even had ways to give donations of students who couldn't go to the Santa shop, which their Santa shop was lit. I have to say that it was fire. The kids loved it, and they had it open, and they were able to raise money for students who may not, and we were able to give. So I wanted to thank all of our PTOs and PTAs for that matter, and all the things that they were doing around the holiday season as we transition, being the last day, and wishing all of our staff in the buildings a happy and a much needed break. Enjoy it, and remember to be present in the present. So be that present, meaning disconnect and actually show up for your family. With that, if I could have a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All right, that John and Mr. Bauer, if we could have roll call, please.
Mrs. Walsh.
Aye.
Ms. Gray.
Aye.
Mr. Bauer.
Aye.
Mr. Studeberger.
Aye.
And Ms. Kirshner.
All right, motion passes.
10:46.
The time is 10:46. This meeting is adjourned.
Where? So, Drew?